Chapter 832. Hearing that, everyone was shocked, and their eyelids twitched. The Yen family is here. This was definitely an earth-shattering event. Needless to say, the Yen family was here to kill Lin Xian. Two terrifying forces had arrived one after another. Even if Lin Xian had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would not be able to fight them. Hee. Lin Xian is dead this time. Chaos is coming. I wonder who'll get the Lone Star Sword. Someone sighed. No one thought that Lin Xian would be able to leave alive because no one could escape unscathed under the attacks of the two forces. The huge black shadow was a demonic general rank demonic beast. It was 100 feet long and looked ferocious. On the back of the demonic general, there were countless figures looking down coldly. However, before Lin Xian could speak, the people on the golden boat were enraged. Who is it? How dare you stop above us? Get lost! The voice was terrifying. It was like the roar of the thunder god tearing the clouds apart. The terrifying sound wave gathered and attacked the huge flying demonic beast. Boom! The huge flying demonic beast flapped its wings and formed 2 terrifying tornadoes. They collided with the sound wave attack and created an earth-shattering explosion. The void was annihilated and turbulence flowed in all directions, destroying everything. Everyone was shocked and gasped. They did not expect the people from the Golden Palace to attack. No wonder they were from the Golden Palace. They were too arrogant. They did not even put the Yen family in their eyes. It could not be helped. The giant Axe City was famous for being arrogant, especially that crazy warrior. He was unruly. How could he allow others to stop above him? He was already giving them face by not attacking immediately. Who dares to attack the Yen family? Aren't you afraid of being annihilated? A cold voice came from above. It was obvious that the people from the Yen family were furious. Yen family? Is that so? How dare you stop above the Golden Palace? I'll give you a chance. Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame us for killing you. Golden Palace. Hearing that, the martial artists from the Yen family fell silent. They did not expect the group of people to be the famous Golden Palace martial artists. However, so what if they were from the Golden Palace? The Yen family wasn't a coward. On the back of the demon general, the middle-aged man standing in front asked in a deep voice, "So it's fellow Taoist from the Golden Palace. Which city are you from?" Giant Axe City. Mad warrior. An unruly voice sounded, as if it was looking down on everyone. Berserker. Huge Axe has become the deputy city lord. The middle-aged man's pupils shrank. He had never thought that the great Axe City's city lord would come here in person. He knew how powerful the other party was, but as a member of the Yen family, he would not lose face for the family. Mad Battle City Lord, we're all here to capture the same person. It can be said that we share a common enemy. Why should we fight each other and harm our harmony? Hurt the harmony? Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? Berserker was very arrogant and did not put the middle-aged man in his eyes at all. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's face turned ugly. His eyes burned with anger, but he didn't dare to attack. Humph! If he's not qualified, then what about me? An old voice sounded. Then a huge pressure gushed out and shrouded the area below. This pressure was so terrifying that it made everyone's heart tremble. Even the warriors of huge Axe City on the Gold Spirit ship changed their faces. They looked up at the sky, as if they were facing a great enemy. Humph! Open for me! Berserker roared. He waved his arm and slashed out a huge golden axe shadow that seemed to be able to split heaven and earth. Bang! A low sound rang out, and a strong turbulence filled the entire space. The surrounding warriors were frightened and kept retreating. They couldn't bear the impact of this power at all. In the next moment, the terrifying energy exploded, sending out a strong impact. Berserker took a step back and suddenly looked up, his eyes fixed on the sky. Although he didn't use his full strength in that attack, The person who could make him retreat was definitely not an ordinary warrior. Above, an old man in a Taoist robe appeared on the back of the huge beast. Although his hair was white, his skin was as smooth as a baby's, giving people a very strange feeling. "Greetings, guardian elder." Seeing this old man, the warriors of the Yen family all bowed, respectfully, "Guardian elder." In the distance, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the Yen family to send a guardian elder. It seemed that they were determined to kill the other party this time. On the gold spirit ship, Berserker looked at the old figure, and his pupils shrank. He felt an aura that was not inferior to his own from the old man. "Ha ha! Berserker City Lord, why are you so angry? Our enemy is the murderer in the Scarlet Palace. Now that the murderer hasn't even shown himself, we're going to be a joke. If we fight first, I can catch the murderer. But your beast can't stay on top of me." Berserker's voice was cold. Facing the guardian elder, he was still fearless. "This is the negligence of the Yen family. Don't worry, we'll leave now." The guardian elder smiled, faintly. Then he waved his sleeve and flew to the other side with the huge beast. Even though the Yen clan had moved the beasts away, they didn't sound friendly at all. The protector elder laughed and said again, "Huge Axe City has been here for so long, but you still haven't caught the murderer. Why don't the Yen family do it? You're courting death." On the gold spirit ship, the martial artists of Huge Axe City were furious. They looked ahead with ferocious expressions. The group of people opposite them dared to say that they were useless. They couldn't stand it. Berserker's expression was also cold. There was a strange light in his bell-like eyes. Compared to those ordinary martial artists, he was thinking more. It should be known that they didn't come here just to kill the murderer. Their real goal was to get the Lone Star Sword. Whoever could kill the murderer first would get the Lone Star Sword in their hands and naturally have the advantage. This was something that none of the forces wanted to let go of. Now, the Guardian Elder's words clearly indicated that the Yen family wanted to fight with the Huge Axe City for the Lone Star Sword. Other things could be discussed, but this was something that they couldn't back down on. There's no need for the Yen family to do anything. The Huge Axe City can easily take down a thief. Berserker refused immediately. Then he said to the people behind him, "Prepare the spirit cannons and continue to attack." "What are you talking about?" "That thief killed a genius of the Yen family. Of course, the Yen family should do it." The guardian elder of the Yen family didn't back down either. He waved his hand and quickly ordered the disciples of the family to prepare to attack as well. No one could remain calm in the face of a half-Earth ranked treasure. Therefore, the two forces were ready to attack together. How arrogant, how overbearing. However, you seem to have forgotten to ask for my opinions. A faint voice rang out and spread clearly in all directions. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and looked up in disbelief. At this time, someone dared to tease the two forces. Did they have a death wish? Chapter 833. Humph! Quangzhan and the Yen family guardian elder looked gloomy as they looked at the Crimson Palace in front of them. They realized that the voice had come from the Crimson Palace. Sure enough, in the next moment, a figure slowly walked out from the entrance of the Crimson Palace. "Lin Xian, it's him. He's not dead." Everyone exclaimed in shock. They did not expect that their attack had not hurt Lin Xian at all. Moreover, what shocked them even more was that Lin Xian had taken the initiative to show himself in such a dangerous situation. What is he trying to do? Is he not afraid of death? No one knew. At this moment, everyone was looking at that young figure. Lin Xian stood at the entrance of the Crimson Palace and looked around. Then his face turned gloomy. He had been comprehending the newly acquired martial arts in the Crimson Palace, so he did not attack. However, that did not mean that he was not angry. The golden pillar of light from before had almost threatened his safety. Now, The two forces were discussing who he should belong to, as if he was a commodity. They did not take him seriously at all. It was as if he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. However, was Lin Xian really a lamb? The martial artist from the giant axe city and the Yen family laughed when they saw Lin Xian walk out. Boy, you know what's good for you. I'll give you a chance to surrender now. Perhaps I'll give you a quick death. The middle-aged man from the Yen family laughed coldly. On the other side, the martial artist from the giant axe city also shouted coldly, "Thief! How dare you kill someone from the Golden Palace? Come here and die." Both sides laughed sinisterly as they surrounded Lin Xian. What a nice way to put it. Revenge? Isn't that what you're here for? With that, Lin Xian held the Lone Star Sword in his hand. The Lone Star Sword. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw the sword in Lin Xian's hand. Greed filled their eyes. The eyes of Kuang Zhan and the Yen family guardian elder shone brightly. As long as they killed the thief in front of them, the Lone Star Sword would be theirs. Brat, you're quite self-aware. The Yen family guardian elder laughed coldly. I'll give you a chance. Hand over the Lone Star Sword, and I might let you live. You'd better give us the Lone Star Sword. Otherwise, I'll let you experience what it means to be dead. Kuang Zhan said coldly on the golden boat. You want the Lone Star Sword? It's simple, but there's one problem. There's only one Lone Star Sword. Who should I give it to? Yen Zhan. Kuang Zhan. Don't try trying to sow discord between us. Elder Zhang sneered. Brother Mad Warrior, why don't the two of us work together and kill this little bastard first? Then we can talk about the Lone Star Sword. Zhan. Berserker took a step forward, his eyes cold as he stared at the figure in front of him. Zhan. The crowd below exclaimed. No one would be able to block the attacks of two peak second-level venerables. Even an ordinary third-level venerables would be killed. The Yen clan's protector elder sneered. Brat, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. How stupid. What's the point of wasting words with him? Just kill him. The berserker roared as well. He was like a giant, causing the void to tremble as he stepped on it. These two people were too strong. Even Lin Xian had a serious expression on his face. If it was before, he would not have been able to defeat these two people. However, not long ago, his blood sword inheritance had broken through to the third level, and his strength had greatly increased. Moreover, he had also mastered a new martial art blood shadow doppelganger kill. If he could catch them off guard, he might be able to kill them. At this thought, Lin Xian gripped the Lone Star Sword in his hand. This time, he had to treat it seriously. You dare to resist? You're courting death. Seeing Lin Xian's actions, the Yen family's law protector elder sneered. In his eyes, Lin Xian was like an ant. If such a person dared to fight with them, he had no chance of winning. With a cold snort, the Yen family's law protector elder waved his palm, lightly. Suddenly, a purple ball of light appeared in the void. It carried with it a sinister and terrifying power as it rushed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian's eyes sharpened. He quickly pulled out the Lone Star Sword and gently slashed at the void. In the next moment, the terrifying purple ball of light in the void cracked in half. It was as easy as cutting tofu. Seeing this, the Yen family's elder's eyes shone with a terrifying light. As expected of a half-Earth class treasure, it was so sharp, he was too excited. The sharpness of the Lone Star Sword was beyond his imagination. A casual slash could break his normal attack. If he could obtain it, his combat strength would definitely increase by several times. Thinking of this, the Yen family's elder's eyes were filled with greed. He roared, and like a ghost, he quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. On the other side, Crazy Warrior also shouted coldly. His violent fist was mixed with unparalleled power as it rushed forward. Boom! With a punch, the void in front of him quickly cracked open. The spiritual qi was sucked dry in an instant. A vast and turbulent power instantly enveloped Lin Xian. This power was too terrifying. An ordinary second-level honorable realm would not be able to withstand this casual punch. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. The red lotus armor quickly appeared on his body. At the same time, he held the Lone Star sword in his hand and quickly slashed out countless sword qi. Clang, clang, clang. The void trembled slightly. The entire sky seemed to be about to explode as a terrifying and vast energy swept out in all directions. At the same time, the Yan family's law protector elder also came in front of Lin Xian. He waved his purple ghost claw as if he wanted to tear Lin Xian apart. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He activated the red lotus armor to the maximum. A huge shadow of the red lotus armor formed on his body and blocked all the attacks. Bang, bang. When the attacks collided with the red lotus armor, the shock waves shook the sky and forced Lin Xian to retreat. However, he did not suffer any substantial damage. He can withstand it. The Yan family's law protector elder was shocked. He did not expect Lin Xian to have such a defense. What an unexpected surprise. I will capture you later and take your soul. I must get my hands on this defense technique. The Yan family's law protector elder sneered. He realized that Lin Xian was full of treasures. He could not let go of such a person. If you want the Lone Star sword, exchange it with your lives. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He quickly waved the Lone Star sword and slashed at the two of them. The sword qi, which was almost 100 feet long, was extremely sharp. It split the entire sky open. How terrifying! The surrounding people looked at the sky in shock. They were so far away, but they could not withstand the slightest bit of sword qi. It was as if they were about to be split open. One could imagine how terrifying a half-earth ranked treasure was. However, Guangzhan and the law protector elder were not to be outdone. Although the sword qi was terrifying, they still retaliated with all their might. Clang! Guangzhan pulled out the golden battle axe from his back and quickly swung it. Chapter 834. The battle axe shone with a golden light. It was as heavy as a mountain, causing the entire void to tremble. In the next moment, it struck the sword qi, creating a series of sparks. Terrifying divine power spread out in all directions. The golden battle axe was smooth and shone with a golden light. Inscriptions swam quickly on it, blocking the Lone Star sword qi. At the same time, the Yan family guardian elder's purple ghost claw slapped over. In an instant, the air around Lin Xian was torn apart. It was like a piece of cloth torn beyond recognition. Boom! Lin Xian swung his fists to counter the attack. Red flames danced, forming a terrifying flaming fist to resist the purple ghost claw. Even so, he was still sent flying. The force was too strong, as expected of a peak level 2 martial artist. However, the moment he retreated, he quickly slashed out with his sword. A terrifying sword qi merged into the void, forming a killing move that slashed forward. This sword qi merged with the concept of wind. It was extremely strange. It instantly merged into the void and disappeared without a trace. When it reappeared, it was already in front of the Yan family guardian elder. It quickly slashed down. The Yan family guardian elder's pupils constricted. He was shocked. He did not expect the sword to be so strange. In a panic, he moved his body horizontally, leaving behind a purple afterimage. At the same time, he waved his sleeve, forming a purple shield in front of him. Boom! The two collided, creating an earth-shattering sound. The purple shield was extremely mysterious. It actually blocked most of the sword qi. However, Lin Xian's sword qi was too sharp. Furthermore, it was activated by a half-earth grade treasure. It could be said to be extremely powerful. Therefore, the remaining sword chi rushed out and left a terrifying wound on the Yen family guardian elder's body. Ah! The Yen family guardian elder screamed and quickly retreated hundreds of meters. He stared viciously at Lin Xian. He was not a body-tempering martial artist. Therefore, even though his cultivation was at the peak of level 2 supremacy, he could not block such a terrifying sword chi. In addition, the sword chi just now was too strange. Therefore, it directly injured him. "Brat, you dare to hurt me? I'll make you wish you were dead." The Yen family's guardian elder had a ferocious look on his face. Like a demon king, he glared at Lin Xian. The surrounding martial artists trembled in disbelief. They never thought that Lin Xian would be able to injure the Yen family's guardian elder so quickly. The Yen family elder's face was ferocious as purple energy surrounded his body. In the next moment, his head full of white hair quickly turned purple, making him look incomparably demonic. Lin Xian let out a long whistle and quickly unleashed the great dragon sword soul. Facing two powerful opponents, he had no choice but to go all out. Especially the other person, whose strength was incomparably strong, causing him to be extremely wary. Boom! The skies trembled as the void tore apart. A gigantic golden axe light that was 100 feet long slashed down rapidly. This axe light was too terrifying, causing the ground below to crack. Countless buildings were turned into ashes and disappeared in the wind. Golden light flashed, invincible, and instantly arrived in front of Lin Xian. "Die, brat!" A terrifying and ferocious voice rang out. The golden axe light tore apart the sky. The terrifying power was like a vast ocean, incomparably turbulent. However, this shocking axe light was blocked by Lin Xian's Lone Star Sword. An intense collision occurred in the void, and a dazzling screen of light flew in all directions like fireworks. Seeing that his attack did not hit, Berserker roared. Golden light flashed on his body, forming a huge golden giant. With the sky-splitting axe in his hand, he slashed forward. He slashed out 18 times in a row, and divine light flashed in the sky. Every attack was like a shocking lightning bolt, forming a terrifying scene that enveloped Lin Xian. At the same time, the Yen family elder rushed over once again. His head of purple hair was like a demon, and he looked extremely ferocious. His entire arm became thick like two huge ghost claws, and he slapped down quickly. The terrifying power was vast. It was like two purple mountains that rampaged through the void, incomparably heavy. The attacks of the two were extremely terrifying. Even a third-rank honorable would not be able to resist. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He had a battle plan in his mind, so he did not resist too much. Instead, he allowed the two huge attacks to hit him. Rumble! Blazing light flashed as the two attacks enveloped him. A shocking explosion occurred, and a terrifying light enveloped the entire sky. Lin Xian used an Earth-class movement technique and dodged quickly. At the same time, the red lotus armor on his body shone brightly, blocking most of the attacks. In the next moment, he used a spell to condense a blood-colored avatar and handed the Lone Star sword to it. He condensed a blood-colored slaughter sword and held it in his hand. Whoosh! In an instant, the blood-colored avatar disappeared into the void. "Ha ha ha! Thief, let's see how you escape." The Yen family elder's hair was disheveled, and his face was ferocious. This attack was the combined attack of him and Berserker. That thief would definitely not be able to withstand it. The surrounding people were shocked and kept shaking their heads. Looking at this scene, Lin Xian would definitely not be able to survive. On the back of the huge demonic beast, the Yen family disciples sneered. Those who offended the Yen family would definitely not be able to escape death. Berserker held the giant axe with a serious expression. He did not let his guard down because even if Lin Xian died, The following battle would be even more terrifying. This was because it concerned the ownership of the Lone Star Sword. Brat, you shouldn't have offended my Yen clan. The guardian elder sneered and walked forward step by step. However, in the next moment, a blood-colored figure appeared beside him. With a flash of sword radiance, it quickly slashed down. What? The Yen family guardian elder's expression changed drastically, and his pupils constricted. He did not expect someone else to attack. With a roar, he activated his spiritual energy and dodged quickly. The sword radiance made him shudder, and he did not dare to take it head-on. Even so, he was still one step too late. With a scream, the Yen family elder's entire right arm turned into a bloody mist and dissipated into the sky. Half of his body was torn apart and almost split in half. After the successful attack, the blood-colored figure turned into a ray of light and quickly retreated. Kid, I'll kill you. The Yen family elder roared ferociously like an injured beast. He swore that he would torture Lin Xian to death. A terrifying claw covered the sky and quickly grabbed forward. He could see that the blood-colored radiance was the Lone Star Sword. He had to get the Lone Star Sword and torture that despicable thief to death. In the next moment, in the violent energy wave in front of him, a shocking blood-colored sword radiance lit up and quickly split everything apart. Lin Xian was like a sword. He used the illusory demon steps and grabbed the Lone Star Sword. Flying Star, kill him while he's down. Since he had severely injured the Yen family guardian elder, Lin Xian did not plan to let him leave alive. Therefore, he used a powerful killing move right from the start. A cold light condensed in the sky. Lin Xian carried the Lone Star Sword and disappeared like a meteor. In the next moment, the Yen family elder screamed again. Half of his chest had a bloody hole. It was terrifying. If it were not for his powerful strength, he would have been dead by now. I'll kill you. Chapter 835. The elder of the Yen family roared. He did not expect that he would be severely injured in an instant. Moreover, the person who injured him was someone that he had always regarded as an aunt. At this moment, countless people were shocked and dumbfounded. They could not believe what was happening. The disciples of the Yen family cried out in fear. They did not expect that the guardian elder that they were so proud of would be severely injured and almost die. They could not accept this. Thief, I will kill you. Countless disciples of the Yen family roared. Let's see who will kill who today. Lin Xian sneered. He waved his sleeve and released the golden-feathered divine eagle. As soon as the golden-feathered divine eagle appeared, it roared into the sky and spread its wings, forming golden wings that were hundreds of feet long. Every feather was emitting a golden light. It was like sword light, incomparably sharp. In the next moment, countless rays of light shot into the sky and turned into divine swords that fell down. 108,000 swords. In an instant, countless rays of sword light whistled and enveloped the hundreds of disciples of the Yen family. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sword light tore through the void. Countless Yen family martial artists screamed as they were pierced by the golden, divine swords. Their blood dyed the sky red, and their screams were like the cries of ghosts. Massacre! This was a naked massacre. The golden-feathered divine eagle was extremely powerful. Even a second-rank honorable was no match for it. Among the disciples of the Yen family, other than a few powerful honorables, the other ordinary martial artists were no match for it. Seeing those martial artists die, the guardian elder of the Yen family roared into the sky. His body emitted a terrifying aura like a demon as he let out a sharp cry. Kid, I will kill you. His eyes were filled with killing intent and unwillingness. If you want to kill me, you should be prepared to be killed. Lin Xian's voice was cold. If he did not kill these people, he would be killed by them. Therefore, This battle must be ended with blood. The elder of the Yen family roared ferociously. However, he was powerless. At this moment, he was severely injured and was no match for Lin Xian. Therefore, he looked at Quangzhan. "Quangzhan, kill him!" the guardian elder of the Yen family shouted. "This bastard is too despicable." Not only did he kill the disciples of the Yen family, he also killed the geniuses of the Golden Palace. Such a person must be eliminated. Seeing Mad Warrior's silence, Yen clan's first elder clenched his teeth and said, "As long as Brother Mad Warrior makes a move, I don't want the Lone Star Sword." "Humph! A piece of trash like you wants the Lone Star Sword?" Mad Warrior snorted and stared coldly at the Yen family protector elder. "What did you say?" Hearing the other party call him trash, the Yen clan's law protector elder flew into a rage. He had never been humiliated like this before, even if the other party was the deputy city lord of the Great Axe City. Am I wrong? A second type, Venerable One, was severely injured by a little thief. How dare someone like you covet the Lone Star Sword? Hurry up and scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The Yen clan elder was so angry that he was trembling. The wound that had been sealed opened again, and blood spurted out. Good. My Yen clan will remember this enmity, and will definitely return it in the future. The Yen clan's law protector elder's eyes were gloomy as he gritted his teeth and said, he knew that he could not stay any longer today. He had to leave quickly and ask the clan to send another master. "Are you threatening me?" Mad Warrior was furious. He snorted coldly and took a step forward. The golden axe in his hand quickly slashed out like a mountain, smashing towards the Yen clan's elder. The Yen clan's elder was shocked. He did not expect Mad Warrior to attack him. In an instant, his face was filled with fear and anger. He channeled all his remaining spiritual power, wanting to escape. However, the axe was too violent and sudden. It completely covered all directions, and he could not escape at all. Bang! A low sound was heard. The Yen clan's elder was hit by the heavenly axe. He immediately screamed, and his body was split in half. What? Everyone gasped in shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Mad Warrior killed the Yen clan's law protector elder? This was too shocking. Was he not afraid of causing a war between the two clans? At this moment, the surviving warriors of the Yen clan were stunned when they saw this scene. They were so stunned that they even forgot to escape. This change was too sudden. Their law protector elder was killed, and the one who did it was Mad Warrior. Why? The Yen clan's middle-aged man roared to the sky, filled with sorrow and confusion. Aren't you afraid that the Yen clan will start a war with the Giant Axe City? Let's start a war then. Do you think the Giant Axe City is afraid of the Yen clan? Mad Warrior sneered. You are too naive. Do you think that if I don't kill him, he won't kill me? In front of the Lone Star Sword. Everyone is an enemy. Anyway, this old man is already crippled. It's good to get rid of him and have one less potential enemy. Isn't it better? As for the Yen clan, when I get the Lone Star Sword, do you think I will be afraid of you? Mad Warrior had thought of everything. This was not a reckless attack, but a meticulous plan. The middle-aged man was furious. The Yen clan will not let you go. Let's go. He waved his hand and wanted to leave with the remaining dozen people. You want to leave? Stay here. Mad Warrior roared and took a step forward. Golden light bloomed from his body and quickly condensed into a golden giant that was 100 feet tall. Then the golden giant slapped down. The huge golden palm covered the sky and quickly enveloped the dozen Yen clan martial artists. No, I won't accept this. The middle-aged man roared to the sky, full of unwillingness. He did not expect the Giant Axe City to backstab him this time. Even the Yen clan's team was wiped out. The merciless giant hand fell and crushed the dozen Yen clan martial artists into a bloody mist. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. It was too shocking. They had not expected this scene at all. On the golden boat, the giant Axe City martial artists looked cold. No matter what Mad Warrior did, they would obey him unconditionally. Lin Xian smiled disdainfully and said indifferently, "What's there to be shocked about? It's just a dogfight." "How dare you? How dare you insult our deputy city master? You are courting death." When the giant Axe City martial artists heard Lin Xian's voice, they were furious and stared coldly at Lin Xian. "Courting death?" Lin Xian sneered. "If I don't say it, will you let me go? Whether you say it or not, I won't let you go." Mad Warrior's voice was cold. "However, you should know that there are many ways to die. One of them is to make you wish you were dead. So, keep your mouth shut. Otherwise, you will end up in a miserable state." "Miserable state?" Lin Xian sneered. "Don't you think it's a bit of an idiot to say that? Back then, the two of you couldn't take me down. Now that one of you is dead, do you think you can take me down? I was just testing you. I didn't use my full strength." Mad Warrior said coldly, "When I use my full strength, you won't be able to escape death." "Really? I'm looking forward to it." Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. The murderous aura around him was fierce, as if he would attack at any time. Chapter 836. At the same time, the Huang clan, Lung clan, and others rushed over. This time, they were determined to kill Lin Xian. Soon, the entire sky became lively. Countless forces rushed over, crowding the sky so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. "Lin Xian, hand over the Lone Star Sword, and I'll spare your life." "The Lone Star Sword is not something you can take. Hand it over quickly, and I'll spare your life." Countless people shouted coldly. Their target was the Lone Star Sword. In an instant, Lin Xian became the target of everyone's attention. At this moment, the sky trembled, and another group of people rushed over. However, when the crowd saw these people, they were stunned for a moment. This group of people was small. There were only about 20 of them. However, they were extremely powerful, and no one dared to stop them. Wherever they passed, the crowd would make way for them. Lin Xian furrowed his brows when he saw the newcomer, the Wanxiang auction. "What are they doing here?" Lin Xian was confused. He did not think that the Wanxiang auction would stand up for him at this time. One had to know that up until now. These people had been blinded by the flames of desire and would not stop at all. No matter how powerful the Wanxiang auction was, they could not stop so many forces at the same time. Moreover, Lin Xian did not believe that the Wanxiang auction would be so stupid as to offend so many forces for him. Therefore, the Wanxiang auction's appearance was very strange. More than 20 martial artists from the Wanxiang auction entered. The one in front was the beautiful lady in palace attire. Beside her was a middle-aged man in purple. This middle-aged man was the martial artist who had visited Lin Xian's courtyard previously. "Young hero Lin, how have you been? I didn't expect us to meet again so soon." The middle-aged man in purple chuckled. "According to the current situation, young hero Lin's situation does not seem to be very good. Have you thought about what I said?" Hearing this, the crowd was shocked, and their expressions changed. The various forces looked at each other with serious expressions. Little did they know that Lin Xian was secretly in contact with the Wanxiang auction. The purple-clothed middle-aged man smiled again and said, "My conditions are still valid. As long as young hero Lin Xian joins us, the Vientiane auction house will guarantee your safety." What? The Wanxiang auction actually wanted to protect Lin Xian? What's going on? Countless people were shocked, not daring to believe this. One had to know that Lin Xian was currently the target of public criticism. He had offended more than one faction. It was unwise for the Wanxiang auction to make a move now. Even if Lin Xian was exceptionally talented, powerful, and a good martial arts seedling, it was not worth taking such a big risk. On the other hand, Lin Xian frowned slightly. There must be a reason for this abnormal situation. Since the Wanxiang auction house had put in so much effort, it would not be so easy for them to take him in. What exactly were they plotting? Lin Xian couldn't understand, although his talent was unparalleled, and his combat strength was extremely strong. The world was vast, and there were countless geniuses. The Wanxiang auction house would not offend so many people for him. Therefore, if the other party simply wanted him to join them, Lin Xian didn't believe it at all. What was left was the most important item in his possession, the Lone Star Sword. However, this item was originally auctioned off at the Wanxiang auction house. If the other party wanted it, they could have not auctioned it off and kept it for themselves. Therefore, Lin Xian couldn't figure out what the other party was plotting. Kid, although those people look calm, their eyes are hiding a deep greed. They are definitely plotting something from you. The Crimson Dragon also transmitted his voice at this moment. He was an old monster who had lived for countless years. Naturally, he saw more things than Lin Xian. Although the other party appeared calm, the greed that came from the depths of their bodies couldn't escape the Crimson Dragon's eyes. Lin Xian nodded slightly, his heart becoming alert. Then he laughed loudly and said, "If you are sincere, then let these people leave now. We can talk in private." Although the Wanxiang auction house was selfish, Lin Xian could use them to drive the remaining forces away. This way, his chances of escaping would be much higher. Lin Xian wanted to use the Wanxiang auction house to drive the remaining forces away. This way, his chances of escaping would be much higher. Hearing this, the purple-robed man's face froze and he frowned slightly. He didn't expect Lin Xian to make such an offer. This was clearly to sow discord between the Wanxiang auction house and the other forces. If they didn't get what they wanted, they would have already started a war with countless other forces. How could they do such a thing? At least the purple-robed man couldn't make the decision. He took a deep breath and looked at the beautiful woman in front of him. The beautiful woman was called Shengguan Xian. She held a high position in the Wanxiang auction house and was also the commander of this operation. Hearing Lin Xian's words, she smiled faintly and said, "Why do we need to let these people leave? As long as young hero Lin comes with us, I guarantee that none of these people will dare to do anything to you. This wilderness is not the place to talk. Young hero Lin, why don't you come back to the Wanxiang auction house with us, and we can discuss this in detail." Hearing this, Lin Xian's face was calm, but his heart was shocked. This woman's words were even more targeted. It seemed like she really wanted Lin Xian to go back to the Wanxiang auction house with them. If this was any other time, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, at this critical moment, this was too abnormal. After all, Lin Xian was the target of countless people. Now, the Wanxiang auction house wanted to invite Lin Xian to join them, no matter how one looked at it. It seemed like they wanted to surround Lin Xian without shedding any blood. One had to know that the Wanxiang auction house was the headquarters of these people. They definitely had a strong military force. Lin Xian would be like a lamb in a tiger's den. There was no way he could come out alive. Not only was Lin Xian shocked, but so were the people from the other forces. They came here to capture Lin Xian, not to watch the Wanxiang auction house take him away. The Huang and Lung families didn't dare to say anything, but the giant Axe City wasn't afraid of the Wanxiang auction house at all. Among them, Kuang Zhan snorted and said coldly, "What is the meaning of this? Do you want to fight with us for the Lone Star Sword?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked again. They were all confused. Yes, the Wanxiang auction house took action at this critical moment. Was it really for the Lone Star Sword? But that shouldn't be the case. They were the ones who released the Lone Star Sword. Why would they take it back now? Seeing the doubts of the crowd, Shengguan Xian snorted coldly. The Wanxiang auction house's actions are not for you to tell us what to do. She was very strong. Even when faced with the doubts of so many forces, she wasn't afraid. Young hero Lin, quickly make a decision. We can't stay here for long. Sheng Guanxian said. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He knew that he had to make a decision now. He could either temporarily join forces with the Wanxiang auction house and leave this place, or immediately start a war. After thinking for a while, he decided to join forces with the Wanxiang auction house and see what they were planning. Chapter 837. However, after receiving the Crimson Dragon's warning, Lin Xian would not be so stupid as to directly approach the other party. He used the Blood Shadow Doppelganger art, then used the Heavens Changing spell to quickly form an identical doppelganger. Then he pulled out the Star Scar sword and quickly wrapped it up, making it look like the Lone Star sword. Lin Xian took the Lone Star sword and used the Heavens Changing spell to carefully hide on the side. This move was extremely fast. Lin Xian used almost all of his strength to complete it. With the help of the Crimson Dragon, he successfully hid from everyone. His real body was hidden in the air without any aura, as if it did not exist. Even a third layer venerable would not be able to discover it. As for the Blood Shadow Doppelganger, it slowly walked towards the Wanxiang auction. Lin Xian hid very well, and no one noticed anything strange. Instead, when the other parties saw that Lin Xian was approaching the auction, they all became anxious. The angriest party was the huge Axe City, especially Mad Warrior. He had finally killed a powerful opponent, the Yan family's law protector elder, and wanted to take the Lone Star sword for himself. However, he did not expect so many people to come. Moreover, what was even worse was that the Wanxiang auction wanted to take away his target. How could he tolerate this? At the same time, on the gold boat, a 30-something-year-old youth shouted coldly, "Leave the Lone Star sword behind." In the next moment, his body shot out like a ghost, quickly grabbing towards the front. A huge palm appeared, like a golden skeleton hand, quickly grabbing towards Lin Xian. Humph! On the Wanxiang auction side, the purple-robed, middle-aged man snorted and also punched out. A bright light flashed and collided with the golden skeleton hand, creating a rumbling sound. Then, the two energies dissipated in the sky. "Sir, what are you trying to do by attacking our Wanxiang auction's guest?" The purple-robed, middle-aged man said coldly. "What am I trying to do? Get lost." Mad Warrior was furious. He took a step forward, and his aura surged like an ancient beast. Just his aura alone was enough to push back the purple-robed, middle-aged man. The purple-robed, middle-aged man retreated, cracking the void. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with shock. Quang Zhan was extremely furious. He held the golden battle axe in his hand and swung it down. The terrifying axe light enveloped all the martial artists in the Wanxiang auction house. In an instant, the 20 or so people from the Wanxiang auction held their breaths as their scalps went numb. The other party's attacks were too terrifying, and they couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, they still had the woman in the palace dress. Sheng Guanxian coldly snorted. She raised her jade-like hands and quickly slapped out. This palm carried a very mysterious charm and a mysterious power as it blocked the golden battle axe. In the void, Lin Xian's real body was hidden. When he saw this scene, he immediately narrowed his eyes. He did not expect that the woman in the palace dress was also a peerless expert. It seemed like the Wanxiang auction strength was not to be underestimated. After blocking the golden battle axe with one strike, Sheng Guanxian's cold voice rang out. Although the Great Axe Prefecture is powerful, the Vientiane auction house is not afraid of you. If you continue to cause trouble, then don't blame us for being impolite. You can take him away, but you must leave the Lone Star sword behind. Quang Zhan made a concession. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to start a war with the Wanxiang auction house. As for this, we can't make the decision. Of course, we have to ask young hero Lin. Sheng Guanxian smiled sweetly. Instantly, everyone's gaze turned towards Lin Xian again. At this moment, Lin Xian's clone had also arrived in front of the Wanxiang auction house. Seeing the figure in front of him, the purple-clothed, middle-aged man's eyes flashed with greed, but he quickly hid it. Sheng Wanxian smiled and said, "Young hero Lin, don't worry. Your decision will definitely not be wrong." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly reached out with lightning speed. Her jade-like hands were like white lightning, extremely fast. She grabbed the drum-core sword on Lin Xian's back. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she snatched the Lone Star Sword. Ahaha! Sheng Wanxian laughed complacently as she let out a silver chime. The purple-clothed, middle-aged man behind her and the other Wanxiang auction house martial artists also laughed heartily. They could easily get the Lone Star Sword, which others could not get even after trying so hard. There was nothing happier than this. This scene shocked everyone. Countless people were dumbfounded, and their minds went blank. What kind of show is the Wanxiang auction house playing? Is their goal really the Lone Star Sword? You guys? Lin Xian's clone also pretended to be shocked and asked in shock, "What are you doing?" "What are we doing?" Sheng Wanxian smiled. "Young hero, don't worry. I think the Lone Star Sword is very dangerous. Why don't you keep it with me for the time being?" She played with the Lone Star Sword and said, casually. She did not take Lin Xian seriously at all. Lin Xian, who was far away in the sky, laughed coldly in his heart. As expected, they are up to no good. They are eyeing the Lone Star Sword. Although he did not know why they would go back on their words and snatch the Lone Star Sword at this moment, Lin Xian had no doubt that the Wanxiang auction house had been blacklisted. If he had the chance, he would not hesitate to take action. At the same time, a cold smile appeared on his face. He was curious to see the expressions of the people at the Wanxiang auction house when they found out that the Lone Star Sword was fake. The expressions of the other factions changed greatly as they stared at Sheng Wanxian, or more accurately, the Lone Star Sword in her hand. The Wanxiang auction house's actions were too abnormal. If they wanted the Lone Star Sword, they would not have auctioned it. Why would they snatch it now? Are they just trying to earn 1 billion middle spiritual stones? The crowd could not understand. Although 1 billion middle spiritual stones was a huge sum, it was not enough for the Wanxiang auction house to risk their reputation to snatch it. The most important thing for an auction house was their reputation. Without a good reputation, they would not be able to do anything, let alone go back on their words and snatch something that had already been auctioned off. This was definitely a taboo for an auction house. Yet the Wanxiang auction house was doing such a thing. Were they crazy? I thought you guys were doing this for the talent. It turns out that you guys are also after the Lone Star Sword. Crazy Warrior sneered. If that's the case, don't blame me for being merciless. He was infuriated. He was so close to obtaining the Lone Star Sword. However, it had now fallen into the hands of the people from the Wanxiang auction. It would be much more difficult to snatch it from him than it would be to snatch it from Lin Xian. Sheng Wanxian sneered when she saw the surrounding people staring at her. I know that this young hero Lin has a grudge against most of you. How about this? We'll take the Lone Star Sword. As for this young hero Lin, I'll leave him to you guys. If you have grievances, take revenge. If you have grievances, take revenge. Vent the anger in your hearts. Okay? She was smiling, but her words were vicious. She did not care about Lin Xian's life at all. I'll kill him, but I'll get the item too. They all stared blankly at the sky, not daring to believe it. The legendary half-Earth step treasure was broken just like that. Could it be the next moment? An idea suddenly arose in his mind. No, this is not true. Sheng Wanxian shook his head. However, before she could finish her thought, a terrifying, murderous aura came from the left side of her body, as if it wanted to tear her apart. Humph! With a cold snort, Sheng Wanxian's body moved horizontally. Like a ghost, he quickly disappeared from his original spot. Lin Xian, you're courting death. When Shangguan Xian saw that the one who launched the sneak attack was actually Lin Xian, he immediately flew into a rage. An ant-like existence actually dared to sneak attack her? He was really courting death. In the next moment, she threw out her palm and launched a terrifying attack. She wanted to kill Lin Xian with her palm. However, Lin Xian's doppelganger revealed a sinister smile. His body glowed with blood-red light, and a shocking blood-red murderous aura was released from his body, shrouding all the martial artists who were looking at the auction. Bang! An earth-shattering sound reverberated in all directions. Countless rays of blood-red light burst, and a terrifying explosion occurred. Terrifying energy swept in all directions, smashing a terrifying black hole in the void. The crowd was terrified and quickly retreated. At the same time, they were extremely shocked. The change in the scene was too strange. They could not understand it at all. The blood-red light dissipated, and the sky became clear again. However, more than 10 people from the Vientiane auction had completely disappeared from the void, leaving not even ashes behind. The remaining few martial artists were also injured, and they were all screaming in pain. Even the middle-aged man in the purple robe had one of his arms blown off. Blood flowed from his body, and he looked extremely miserable. The only one who was not injured was Shangguan Xian. However, her face was extremely gloomy at the moment. Lin Xian, I will definitely kill you. If she still could not understand what had happened, then she could go and die. This was a trap set up by Lin Xian. That Lin Xian was not the real Lin Xian, and the Lone Star Sword was also fake. All of this was an illusion created by Lin Xian. To think that she, a peak second Heaven Martial Highness, and the person in charge of the Vientiane auction would be fooled by a young brat. Thinking of this, her heart went crazy, and she was filled with hatred. The funny thing was that she did not think that if they had not set up Lin Xian and wanted to take the Lone Star Sword, how would they have fallen into his trap? If they had not been so vicious and snatched the Lone Star Sword and left Lin Xian behind without caring about his death, why would Lin Xian attack them? Therefore, the Vientiane auction had only themselves to blame for all of this. The others were shocked, too. They did not expect the powerful Vientiane auction to be set up by someone else. Quang Zhan burst out laughing, his eyes filled with disdain. The Vientiane auction really deserved it. If you had not set up such a trap, how would you have ended up like this? What you did is called reaping what you sowed. You only have yourself to blame. Quang Zhan burst out laughing. How satisfying! Although his target was also the Lone Star Sword, he still admired Lin Xian's actions. Humph! Shangguan Xian harumphed coldly. Her eyes were like lightning as she quickly scanned her surroundings. Following this, she clenched her teeth and said, Lin Xian, you better come out and hand over the Lone Star Sword. If not, you will not be able to survive. Is that so? Are you threatening me? A calm voice was heard. You can think of it that way. I advise you to be smart, or else you will end up in a miserable state. Lin Xian laughed, and his voice was heard once again. Many people are threatening me. Who do you think you are? His voice was filled with disdain and disdain. He did not think highly of the Vientiane auction at all. Hearing this, the crowd was shocked, then relieved. Indeed, the Lin Xian now was the arrogant and unruly young man they knew. It seemed like the alliance with the auction was only a temporary measure. Don't be so arrogant. You killed so many people from the Vientiane auction. I will tear you to pieces. Shangguan Xian's voice was cold. She waved her hand and shot out rays of light that spread in all directions. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed, and the terrifying shadow of a palm covered the entire sky. In order to kill Lin Xian, they must first find Lin Xian. The horrifying energy was vast and boundless, like a tidal wave. It swept across the entire void rapidly. Don't waste your energy. You just want to find me, right? Lin Xian laughed coldly. The space rippled, and Lin Xian stepped out and revealed himself. I am right here. Do it if you can. Although he was laughing, his voice was unusually cold. Indeed, he had a strong desire to kill the Vientiane auction. They were so evil, trying to steal his Lone Star sword, and even trying to kill him. How could he let them go? Chapter 839. You still dare to come out? You're courting death. When Shangguan Xian saw Lin Xian, she immediately laughed sinisterly. As long as he appeared, she had 100 ways to make him suffer a fate worse than death. With a wave of her jade-like hand, Shangguan Xian quickly attacked. A huge hand covered the sky. It was as white as jade and surrounded by multicolored light, emitting a terrifying aura. The palm slammed down and enveloped the opponent. In an instant, the entire sky was enveloped and turned into chaos. Everyone exclaimed. The palm was too terrifying. It was as vast as the sky. Lin Xian sneered. He held the Lone Star sword in his hand and raised his combat strength to the extreme. He quickly swung his sword. A blood-red divine bird quickly flew out from the sword. On it, bloodlight flickered and blazing divine flames danced. Half of the sky was reflected red, as if it was a blood-red world. It carried a monstrous killing aura and a vast and terrifying flame aura. Boom! A terrifying sound resounded in all directions. The jade-like palm released a tsunami-like energy. The sky collapsed and the earth caved in, destroying everything. The divine bird formed by the sword chi was also incomparably fierce. It waved its beast claws and tore the space apart. This was a terrifying collision. Pure white light filled the vast world. The two resonated and emitted a destructive aura, shocking the surrounding martial artists. Bam! Bam! Both of them retreated as fast as lightning. Every step they took caused the void to explode. They retreated a few hundred feet before they stabilized their bodies. However, Shangguan Xian's heart was filled with shock. The other party was a First Heaven Honorable Realm brat, but he was on par with her. Although the other party had a half-Earth rank artifact, she still couldn't accept it. One had to know that she was an existence that could kill a Third Heaven Honorable Realm. With a cold snort, Shangguan Xian quickly summoned her martial soul. This time, she was going to use all her strength to kill the other party. The void behind her fluctuated, revealing a piece of chaos. A jade-like palm stretched out from the chaos, emitting a pure, white light. Everyone below was shocked because the aura emitted by the palm was too terrifying. It made them tremble and even had the urge to kneel down. Even Kuang Zhan's face was solemn. Mysterious jade hand. He didn't expect her to have such a martial soul. Kuang Zhan's words were filled with fear. Brat, you should be proud that you made me use my martial spirit. Don't worry, after I get the Lone Star sword, I'll torture you to death. Like a demoness, she laughed sinisterly and then disappeared into thin air. With a flash of light, Shangguan Xian had already arrived before Lin Xian. His palm mercilessly slammed down, instantly shattering the void. Lin Xian, on the other hand, used the illusory demon steps and quickly dodged the attack. Then, he also activated the great dragon sword soul in his body. A deep dragon's roar sounded from within his body. Then, a shocking sword will erupted and swept through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian was like a reborn sword, swift and fierce to the extreme. With the Lone Star sword in his hand, he was like a god of death. Tens of thousands of sword rays burst forth from his body, and they were extremely dazzling. Kill! With a furious roar, Lin Xian also quickly attacked. He slashed out with his sword. The terrifying sword Qi was as black as ink, like an abyss. It carried with it the power of death. It was incomparably turbulent and swept toward Shangguan Xian. Sword of Nirvana. Shangguan Xian frowned. Her pure white palm was like a jade mountain. It quickly descended, wanting to crush Lin Xian into a bloody mist. Behind her, the mysterious white palm was covered with strange patterns that flickered with a dazzling brilliance. Boom! The two collided. The terrifying energy was like a flood that surged into the sky, vast and mighty. The sword of Nirvana was incomparably black. It crazily devoured all the vitality and energy, wanting to completely destroy the mysterious jade hand. The mysterious jade hand was incomparably white, like white jade, emitting a terrifying energy. Shangguan Xian was very confident. Her martial spirit was indestructible and invincible. With a furious roar, she injected all her spirit energy into the mysterious jade hand. Then, the entire mysterious jade hand erupted with a dazzling light like a bright moon. It quickly attacked and shattered the sword of Nirvana. Ha ha! My mysterious jade hand is incomparably profound. It's not something you can resist. Now, die! Shangguan Xian laughed sinisterly. However, she had still underestimated the power of the sword of Nirvana. Although the sword Qi was shattered, the power of Nirvana did not disappear. Instead, it formed a black mist that enveloped Shangguan Xian's body. Waves of power that seemed to come from hell crazily absorbed her vitality. What is this? Shangguan Xian was alarmed. Her expression changed drastically, and she was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. She could clearly feel that the vitality and spirit energy in her body were rapidly draining away, like a withered flower that would soon wither. Her expression changed drastically. Like a frightened rabbit, she instantly retreated 100 feet. Then, she pushed her spirit energy with all her might and poured it into the mysterious jade hand. She struck out with a dazzling palm shadow, causing the entire sky to fall into chaos. Only then was she able to resist the power of death. From the beginning to the end, Lin Xian had only swung his sword once. However, Shangguan Xian had used countless methods and even used her martial spirit to break through it. The difference in strength was immediately distinguished. The surrounding people were shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful that he could even suppress Shangguan Xian. Shangguan Xian was even more furious. Her expression was unsettled. She knew that she had underestimated her opponent's strength this time. It seemed that her plan had to be changed. Being suppressed by Lin Xian, Shangguan Xian was furious. However, she did not immediately make a move. Instead, her eyes flickered as she pondered. Since she could not deal with the other party by force, she could only think of other ways. After all, her main goal was to obtain the Lone Star Sword. No matter what method she used, she had to get it. Taking a deep breath, Shangguan Xian tried her best to control her emotions and said in a deep voice, "Lin Xian, I think there is some misunderstanding between us. It was indeed my fault for attacking you earlier. I apologize to you here." Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Shangguan Xian actually apologized. Everyone could not believe it and suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Lin Xian also frowned slightly and looked at the other party with a cold smile. Shangguan Xian continued, "My goal is very simple. I want to take back the Lone Star Sword. No matter what the price is, as long as you say it, I will definitely be able to do it." Seeing Lin Xian shake his head, she hurriedly said, "How about this? I will return the 1 billion spiritual stones that you used to buy the Lone Star Sword. How about that?" "Impossible." Lin Xian shook his head and rejected her decisively. "Then what if I pay double the price?" Shangguan Xian said. This time, it was indeed our Wanxiang auction's recklessness. "I will pay 2 billion spiritual stones as an apology and redeem the Lone Star Sword." What do you think? 2 billion. Everyone was shocked. This price exceeded the price of the Lone Star Sword. Was the Wanxiang auction crazy? The martial artists from the surrounding forces were also suspicious. What was the other party trying to do? Lin Xian's pupils constricted. The other party was so determined to get the Lone Star Sword. Could it be that there was a secret about the Lone Star Sword that he did not know? Chapter 840. At the thought of this, his heart trembled. No matter what, he had obtained the Lone Star Sword from the auction. Regardless of whether there were secrets or not, he would not hand it over. I have never heard of anyone redeeming an item that was auctioned off. Lin Xian shook his head and rejected. If you want to fight, I'll be there anytime. If you don't want to fight, then get lost. Seeing Lin Xian reject her twice, Shangguan Xian's face turned cold. She was so angry that she panted and her body trembled. Lin Xian, if you know what's good for you, you'd better hand over the Lone Star Sword. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Get lost or die. Lin Xian's reply was simple. Just you wait. Soon, you'll regret the decision you made today. Shangguan Xian said coldly. She then turned around and left with the remaining martial artists. She's leaving just like that. The crowd was shocked. They did not expect the powerful Shangguan Xian to leave at this moment. The martial artists from the major forces looked at each other. However, they were not idiots. They had already guessed that there was something wrong with the Lone Star Sword. There might be some hidden secrets behind it. Otherwise, the Vientiane auction would not have taken such a strange action. However, although the crowd was burning with passion, no one dared to act rashly. They had seen how powerful Lin Xian was. He could even suppress Shangguan Xian. He was definitely terrifying. Other than a few experts, no one could capture him. Do you want to fight? Lin Xian looked around and said arrogantly. Many people felt their hearts tremble when they were swept by his sharp gaze. They felt as though they were being pierced. Especially the martial artists from the Huang and Lung families, they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Lin Xian's strength had long exceeded their control. Of course, there were some who were not convinced. Although they could not defeat Lin Xian in a one-on-one fight, they could definitely kill him if they worked together. Therefore, some people secretly joined forces with two other forces and attacked together. In the end, dozens of martial artists were slashed into a bloody mist by Lin Xian's sword. No one survived. This scene made the others not dare to attack anymore. Mad war, and the rest looked coldly at Lin Xian. At this moment, an arrogant laugh was heard. Ha 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 ha, others may be afraid of you, but I'm not. Kid, hand over the Lone Star Sword, and I'll let you live. This voice was extremely arrogant, as if he didn't put anyone in his eyes. Everyone was shocked as they gazed towards the sky. They wanted to know who it was that dared to boast like this. In the void, countless maple leaves drifted down, bringing with them a desolate mood. 6 women walked through the void with swords in their arms. In the middle of them was a red palanquin. That voice sounded from the palanquin. Hong Wuji. Seeing this scene, someone exclaimed. They had long heard of Hong Wuji's name, and many of them had seen this domineering new year in Windy City. Who would have thought that even Hong Wuji was going to make a move? He was also a peerless genius. His combat strength was probably not inferior to Lin Xian's. Everyone was discussing and looking forward to it. With a flash of light, Hong Wuji stood in the void, looking down at Lin Xian. Brat, hand over the Lone Star Sword, and I'll spare your life. You want me to hand over my sword? Speak with your abilities. Lin Xian's gaze was firm as sword qi surrounded his body. Stubborn, Hong Wuji snorted coldly as he quickly drew out a sword. Stepping through the void, he slowly walked towards Lin Xian. With every step he took, the sword qi on his body became stronger. The sharp sword intent also became stronger. In the end, There were 6 streaks of sword chi beside him that connected the heavens and the earth-like pillars, emitting a terrifying aura. Everyone was shocked as they held their breaths. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, and their eyes were filled with horror. This was definitely an incredible young man. With just the 6 streaks of sword chi, he had already surpassed most second-level honorables. This kind of technique was rare in the world. Another terrifying genius. I wonder who's stronger between him and Lin Xian. Everyone was discussing. Brat, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the Lone Star Sword, and I'll spare your life. Hong Wuji's body was surrounded by sword chi, as if he was a sword god. The Lone Star Sword is in my hands. If you have the ability, come and get it yourself. Lin Xian held the Lone Star Sword in his hand, as a sharp sword light also bloomed from his body. It was like a cold wind that swept through the 9 heavens. The 2 streaks of sword chi collided, and the entire void crackled as if it could not withstand it and would split open at any time. In the next instant, both of them slashed out with their swords. Terrifying sword chi surged and finally collided with a dazzling light. Then, Hong Wuji's sword chi shattered, as it could not withstand it at all. Damn it! Hong Wuji's eyes narrowed as his face darkened. He waved his arm and quickly slashed out several streaks of sword chi that connected into a sword net. Only then did he manage to block his opponent's sword chi. You dare to be arrogant with such little ability? Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. Humph, don't be so smug. You're just taking advantage of the Lone Star Sword's light. Hong Wuji's voice was cold. Without the Lone Star Sword, you're nothing. Behind him, the 6 maidservants were also mocking him. It's just a half Earth-class artifact. Anyone who gets it will have unparalleled combat strength. If my young master gets the Lone Star Sword, he can kill you with one slash. Hong Wuji said in a deep voice, Kid, do you dare to fight without the Lone Star Sword? If I lose, I'll turn around and leave immediately. I'll never think about the Lone Star Sword again. If you lose, you have to give the Lone Star Sword to me. How about it? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. It seemed that Hong Wuji could not defeat Lin Xian, who had the Lone Star Sword. That was why he came up with this move. However, they were also looking forward to seeing who would be stronger if they did not use the half-Earth-class artifact. They knew that it was impossible. Lin Xian had the absolute advantage, so how could he give up? Humph, coward. He definitely won't dare to give up the Lone Star Sword to fight with my young master. Of course, without the Lone Star Sword, he's just a piece of trash. How can he defeat our young master? The 6 maidservants mocked him coldly. Hearing these words, Lin Xian smiled. You don't have to provoke me. Since you want to fight, I'll do as you wish. After saying that, he put the Lone Star Sword back into the scabbard on his back. He tapped his storage ring, and the Wind Shadow sword appeared in his hand. What? Lin Xian really gave up the Lone Star Sword. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to agree to Hong Wuji's request. Isn't this guy a little too confident? Not necessarily. Even without the Lone Star Sword, Lin Xian is still very powerful. Don't forget that he has killed many second-level venerables before. Everyone had different opinions and quickly discussed. Upon seeing this, Hong Wuji burst out laughing. Well done, kid. You are indeed courageous. However, without the Lone Star Sword, you'll definitely lose. He let out a long roar, and the sword light on his body shone brightly. Sword chi flickered and surged out like a torrential flood. The Autumn Water Sword was one of Hong Wuji's 6 treasured swords. At this moment, sword chi gushed out like the Milky Way, and it was extremely sharp. Chapter 841. Lin Xian looked calm as he waved his long sword. Streaks of fiery red sword chi surged out and turned into 3 golden crows that flew quickly. Flames surrounded the golden crows, and the terrifying heat distorted the void. The 3 golden crows streaked across the sky and rushed toward each other. Before the sword Qi arrived, the terrifying heat had already evaporated the river. Rumble! The 2 swords clashed, and the entire sky trembled. Countless streaks of sword Qi swept across the sky and wreaked havoc. Hong Wuji's sword Qi was of the water attribute, while Lin Xian's sword Qi was of the fire attribute. As the 2 opposing forces clashed, an intense confrontation took place. It was a competition of strength. Whoever was stronger would be able to suppress the other. The flood surged into the sky, and the flames surged. The 2 forces shone brightly and devoured each other. The crowd was horrified. Such a battle was too terrifying. Even a second-layer honorable realm cultivator would be killed and turned into a bloody mist. It was indeed a battle between geniuses. Although the 2 of them were young, their combat strength had already surpassed that of countless seniors. Boom! The 3 golden crows shone, brightly like 3 suns, and evaporated the river. Then they flapped their wings and shattered the terrifying sword Qi. Hong Wuji frowned and took a step back. How is this possible? His face turned ugly. His opponent's sword technique had surpassed his. Now that Lin Xian had put away his Lone Star sword and was using a sword of the same grade as his, which meant that there was no external enhancement. However, he still could not withstand Lin Xian's sword Qi. What did this mean? This meant that he could not defeat Lin Xian. At the thought of this, his face turned ugly. He let out a long roar, and the 6 swords behind him rushed out and floated around him. Behind him, the void floated, and a huge maple tree appeared. Its branches swayed like an arm and grabbed the 6 swords. Kid, let's decide this in one move. Hong Wuji was furious. He summoned his martial soul and was ready to attack with all his might. If he could not defeat Lin Xian, he would lose face. The martial soul of the maple tree was like a tree man. It held the 6 swords and waved them quickly. Streaks of dazzling sword Qi swept in all directions, forming a sword curtain that shrouded Lin Xian. Brat, release your martial spirit or die. To deal with you, I don't need to use my martial spirit. Lin Xian coldly snorted and pushed the great dragon sword spirit with all his strength. A terrifying sword Qi surrounded his body. You're courting death, Hong Wuji sneered. He had already unleashed his full power. His power could even threaten a 3rd heaven-venerated realm cultivator, but his opponent still hadn't summoned his martial soul. This was obviously an act of overconfidence and courting death. Since that was the case, he would make use of this opportunity to kill the other party and obtain the Lone Star sword. As he thought of this, Hong Wuji tried even harder to activate his martial soul. Boundless sword, Qi joined together as a terrifying sword radiance hovered in the void, covering the heavens and the earth. He dares to be arrogant in front of my young master? That brat is dead meat. That's right. At this juncture, he still hasn't summoned his martial spirit. What an idiot. It's better for him to die. Humph, he doesn't deserve the Lone Star sword. The 6 maids of Red Leaves Valley sneered. The surrounding martial artists were also shocked. They couldn't understand where Lin Xian's confidence came from. How dare he not summon his martial spirit? Lin Xian's gaze was resolute as his black hair fluttered in the wind. Sword radiance flickered in his eyes as he roared and slashed out with his sword. Although he didn't summon the great dragon sword spirit, the sword contained the power of the great dragon sword spirit and was extremely sharp. Blood-colored sword Qi circled around and formed a blood dragon. It roared ferociously and charged forward. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the heavens and earth lost their color. In the next instant, the sword screen formed by the 6 sword Qi collided with the blood dragon. Boom! In an instant, the sword screen shattered, and the blood dragon roared as it charged out. How is this possible? This is impossible. Hong Wuji retreated, his face full of shock as he spat out blood. He didn't expect his opponent to be able to break through his attack. What was worse was that his opponent didn't summon his martial spirit. This meant that the difference in strength between the two of them was huge. Otherwise, such a situation wouldn't have happened. Damn it, I don't believe it. Hong Wuji roared at the sky, his eyes full of indignation. He was powerful and arrogant. He had never taken anyone of the same age as him seriously. When he fought with Lin Xian previously, he thought that Lin Xian was only able to contend with him because of the Lone Star Sword. But now, Lin Xian had put away the Lone Star Sword and was able to suppress him with his own strength. This meant that Lin Xian's strength was above his, but he couldn't accept it. When he thought of what he had said, he felt his face burning. A slap to the face. This was a naked slap to the face. The 6 maidservants were also stunned. They were stunned and stood rooted to the ground. Their young master had been defeated, and he had been utterly defeated. The 6 maidservants couldn't believe it. Lin Xian was too powerful. He was definitely a top genius among the younger generation. The crowd exclaimed. It was as if they had witnessed the rise of a peerless genius. Impossible! Go to hell! Hong Wuji's hair was disheveled, and he was in a sorry state. A ruthless look appeared in his eyes as he waved his sleeves and shot out 3 rays of scarlet light. They were 3 maple leaves that were as thin as cicada's wings. They were scarlet and contained a terrifying power. Oh no, that was a forbidden weapon. If it exploded, it could kill a 3rd heaven honorable. Someone exclaimed and quickly fled. When the news spread, the entire sky was in chaos. Countless martial artists fled into the distance like locusts. The 3 maple leaves were like the hidden weapons of the Grim Reaper as they shot toward Lin Xian. Go to hell! Hong Wuji's face was hideous. He couldn't accept that someone was stronger than him. On the other hand, Lin Xian's face was gloomy. His opponent was so vicious that he wanted to kill him. Since that was the case, he wouldn't hold back. Lin Xian's body swayed. He used his Earth-class movement technique, illusory demon steps. His speed was so fast that even a 3rd heaven honorable couldn't catch up with him. His body flashed like a bolt of lightning and instantly dodged the attack range of the 3 forbidden weapons. Then he slashed out one of them. The blood-red sword light turned into a dragon and rushed toward Hong Wuji. Hong Wuji's face changed drastically as he screamed in horror. Fear appeared in his eyes. Death. This was the feeling of death. He had never experienced such a feeling before, but now he finally knew what fear was, and what fear was. The young man in front of him was too terrifying. He was like his nemesis. Not only did he dodge the attack of the 3 forbidden weapons, he even had the ability to kill him. No, I don't want to die. Hong Wuji tried his best to resist, but he couldn't withstand Lin Xian's sword chi. He could only let out a sorrowful cry and turn around to escape. In the next moment, the terrifying sword light had already enveloped him. Young master, the 6 maidservants screamed. They couldn't imagine how furious Red Leaf Valley would be if Hong Wuji died. Clang! The void suddenly trembled violently. A sword light was like a shooting star and instantly knocked the blood-red dragon away. Then the sword light flashed and enveloped Hong Wuji, taking him with it and disappearing into the sky. Chapter 842. What? He was saved? Everyone was shocked. They thought that Hong Wuji was dead for sure, but they didn't expect that a mysterious person would save him at the last moment. Lin Xian was also surprised. He squinted his eyes and looked at the sky, his expression flickering. However, he didn't care. So what if Hong Wuji survived? He wasn't his match anyway. However, the mysterious person who saved him at the last moment did make him wary. He seemed to be at least a third-level venerable. Hong Wuji went from being arrogant to being defeated in a short period of time. The whole process happened very quickly. The proud son of heaven, who had been the focus of everyone's attention, had been defeated in an instant. Moreover, he had been defeated by Lin Xian. Suddenly, the scene became silent. Countless warriors looked at Lin Xian, their bodies trembling. At this time, Lin Xian also received a message from Yu Fei. Brother Xian, we've found the whereabouts of the Phoenix Blood Scarlet Gold. It was auctioned off by the Huang family's great elder. Moreover, I heard that the Huang family's great elder wants to use this Phoenix Blood Scarlet Gold to create a special inner armor. He hasn't found a blacksmith yet, so he won't make a move for a while. Huang family. Lin Xian frowned and stared at the sky. That was where the Huang family's forces were. However, it wasn't convenient for him to make a move now. It seemed that he could only think of a way. However, he was relieved that the other party wouldn't use this precious metal in a short period of time. Since the whereabouts of the Phoenix Blood Scarlet Gold were known, Lin Xian had no reason to stay. He had to return to the academy to prepare and come back to snatch the Phoenix Blood Scarlet Gold. Anyway, he had a grudge with the Huang family, so there was no need to explain. Lin Xian turned into a meteor and moved quickly. He wanted to leave Windy City. Seeing Lin Xian move, the surrounding people panicked. Although they were shocked by Lin Xian's strength, it didn't mean that they wanted to let Lin Xian go. This was especially true for the people from the Giant Axe Formation. Each and every one of them was glaring angrily. Crazy Warrior also roared and quickly condensed a 100-meter tall golden giant. He waved his hand and grabbed forward. However, they had all underestimated Lin Xian's movement technique. His speed was even faster than that of a third heaven venerable realm cultivator, so all of their attacks missed their target. As for Lin Xian, he turned into a sword light and quickly left the Seeking Wind City. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the defensive array set up by the various forces in Wenfeng City was broken. Lin Xian's figure flickered and disappeared into the horizon. After leaving Wenfeng City, Lin Xian summoned the golden feathered divine eagle and let it fly while he sat cross-legged on its back and quickly recovered his strength. 2 hours later, he opened his eyes and adjusted his body to its peak state. At this time, the Crimson Dragon swam out and said to Lin Xian, "Kid, let me take a look at the Lone Star Sword. Let me see if I can find out the secrets inside." Lin Xian nodded and pulled out the Lone Star Sword from his back and handed it over to the Crimson Dragon. Before this, he had never doubted the Lone Star Sword. However, the Wanxiang auction's actions were too strange. Everything showed that the Lone Star Sword was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Therefore, the Crimson Dragon wanted to investigate it. With his insight, he should be able to find something strange. The Crimson Dragon extended his dragon claw and knocked on the Lone Star Sword, carefully studying it. Suddenly, he raised his dragon claw, and his body trembled. He exclaimed in a low voice, "No way." "What did you find?" Lin Xian asked. Seeing the Crimson Dragon's expression, he could not help but feel nervous. This doesn't seem to be a half-Earth rank artifact. The Crimson Dragon took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Not a half-Earth rank artifact? Then what is it? Lin Xian's face fell. Don't tell me it's just an ordinary spiritual artifact. Then my 1 billion spiritual stones would have been wasted. What do you know? The Crimson Dragon angrily rolled his eyes and snorted. To be exact, this is not just a half-Earth rank artifact. Its value is 10 times higher than an ordinary half-Earth rank artifact. Higher than a half-Earth rank artifact? What is that? Lin Xian was shocked. He could not think of anything in this world that could be so precious. Could it be an Earth rank artifact? If there was anything more precious than a half-Earth rank artifact, it would be an Earth rank artifact. However, an Earth rank artifact was extremely rare and powerful. Every one of them had a mysterious power. This lone star sword did not seem like one. What you said is close, but not completely correct. This lone star sword is indeed a fragment of an Earth rank artifact. Fragment? Lin Xian was puzzled. Yes, a fragment. Most of the Earth rank artifacts in this world have disappeared. Only fragments are scattered in the world. This Lone Star Sword is made from the fragments of an Earth rank treasure. Its power definitely surpasses an ordinary half-Earth rank artifact. It can even be said that its value is immeasurable. The Crimson Dragon continued to explain, don't underestimate this fragment. It contains a mysterious power that countless martial artists want to obtain. I'm afraid that even a king's law would be tempted. After all, although it is a fragment, it still contains the law of inscriptions of an Earth rank artifact that is the most precious item. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He was so shocked that he could not speak. He did not think that an Earth rank artifact fragment would be so precious and that he would have such an item. No wonder the Wanxiang auction went back on their word and mercilessly attacked. They wanted more Lone Star Swords. They must have discovered the secret of the Lone Star Sword. In the absence of an Earth rank artifact, this item was the best item in the world. Kid, you have two choices now. The first is to throw away the Lone Star Sword and leave this place. Otherwise, you might be hunted down by all the martial artists in the world. The second is to leave the Lone Star Sword behind and fully comprehend the Earth rank artifact fragment inside. However, you will become the enemy of all the martial artists in the world. You better think carefully, the Crimson Dragon said in a deep voice. Lin Xian also had a serious expression on his face. He knew that the Lone Star Sword was a hot potato. Although no one knew about it yet, he could not guarantee that the Wanxiang auction would not spread the news. If the news that the Lone Star Sword was an Earth rank artifact fragment got out, then he would really become the enemy of the entire world. However, he was also very excited. An Earth rank artifact fragment was a legendary item. He did not expect to be so close to it for the first time. There is no need to think about it. I will not hand over the Lone Star Sword. Lin Xian's voice was firm. Even if I become the enemy of the entire world. So what? His eyes shone with confidence and an unyielding gaze. The Lone Star Sword was very important. Not only was it powerful, but it also contained an Earth rank artifact fragment. This was what he needed the most. He wanted to reach the pinnacle of martial arts. He had to grasp these items in his hands. Even if he had to become the enemy of the entire world, he would not hesitate. Moreover, as a martial artist, why would he be afraid of a battle? Although he felt an infinite amount of pressure, Lin Xian realized that the blood in his body was gradually boiling. Good kid, I was right about you. The Crimson Dragon was very satisfied with Lin Xian's answer. Let's go. Lin Xian did not delay any longer. He controlled the Divine Eagle and quickly set off towards Senmu College. Chapter 843. In the blink of an eye, it had been 3 days since Lin Xian left Windy City. In these 3 days, various forces searched frantically, trying to find Lin Xian, but to no avail. Many people's faces turned ugly, their hearts filled with despair. Were they destined to miss out on a treasure like a half-Earth rank artifact? Moreover, what made them even more regretful was that they still didn't know which force Lin Xian belonged to. The Wanxiang auction house was furious when they heard that Lin Xian had left. Although they were the overlords of Windy City, they were powerless once they left the city. After all, the Blood Realm was huge with countless forces. It wasn't something that the Wanxiang auction house could control. However, even if they couldn't do it, the forces behind them could. Shangguan Xian didn't hesitate. She quickly reported to her superiors and asked for backup. She reported to her superiors and tried their best to track down Lin Xian. Soon, they received a report. Shangguan Xian carefully read the jade slip in her hand. Then, her pupils shrank, revealing a trace of surprise. Senma College. She took a deep breath, her expression solemn. She didn't expect Lin Xian to be a disciple of Senma College. Senma College was very famous in the Blood Realm. If Lin Xian hid in the college and didn't come out, it would be difficult for them to make a move. Many disciples of the Yan family were in Senma College. Why not let them scout first? Shangguan Xian made a decision and quickly gave the order. At the same time, she waited for the experts sent by her superiors to help her capture Lin Xian. Senma College. Spiritual energy floated around like a fairyland. After a few days of rushing, Lin Xian finally returned. Brother Xian, Wang Li, and the other members of the Dragon Sword Pavilion shouted excitedly when they saw Lin Xian return safely. Lin Xian met with these people for half a day. Then he returned to his courtyard and went into seclusion to cultivate. This time, he went into seclusion to study the Lone Star Sword. However, after studying it for an entire day, he discovered that he was unable to sense the Earth-ranked weapon fragment within the Lone Star Sword. Boy, although you're very powerful right now, your cultivation is too low. If you want to sense the fragment, you must at least possess the strength of the third heavenly layer of Exalted. However, if you insist on wearing it, you might be able to sense it in advance. Wear it on my body. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth twitched when he heard this. This was a half-Earth rank treasured artifact. Moreover, it contained the secret of an Earth rank fragment. Now that he was asked to wear it, it was undoubtedly an action that deserved a beating. However, in order to be able to sense the Earth-grade weapon fragment as soon as possible, Lin Xian endured. Fine, I'll wear it. Lin Xian sheathed the Lone Star Sword on his back. He decided that he would not take it off no matter what. He put down the Lone Star Sword. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He sorted out the things he had obtained recently. Other than the Lone Star Sword, his greatest gain was the Lone Star Sword. It was the blood sword inheritance that had reached the 3rd level, and he had comprehended a clone technique. Other than that, he had also obtained a few storage rings. It was not a small gain. As for his cultivation, he had also reached the peak of 1st level Venerable. It would not be long before he broke through to 2nd level Venerable. At that time, his strength would increase greatly. After doing all this, Lin Xian opened the door and walked out of the courtyard. You're back. I heard that you had a great gain this time. A delicate voice sounded. Murong Qingcheng stood not far away, looking at him with a smile. I heard that you bought a half-Earth rank treasured artifact. Murong Qingcheng tilted her head and looked at Lin Xian. Soon, she noticed the blue ancient sword on Lin Xian's back. You're really showing off. You're carrying a half-Earth rank treasured artifact on your back, just like that. Murong Qingcheng was speechless. This kind of action was really asking for a beating. Although I don't know what you've experienced outside, there are countless monsters in this academy. If one of them saw it and snatched it away, I'm afraid you won't even have a place to cry. Lin Xian was speechless, and he scratched his head. He did not want to be so ostentatious, but in order to sense the Earth rank fragment earlier, he had no choice but to do so. Why don't I cover it with a cloth? Forget it. That's even more annoying. Murong Qingcheng covered her mouth and laughed. Then forget it. That's it. Lin Xian shrugged his shoulders. It's mine anyway. If anyone tries to take it away, I don't mind teaching them a lesson. Moreover, it's not the first time I've become public enemy number 1. Back then, when I was with you, I also became public enemy number 1. Aren't I still living well? Bah, who's with you? Murong Qingcheng blushed and rolled her eyes at Lin Xian. No, I must have remembered wrongly. Lin Xian chuckled dryly and walked forward. You're really asking for a beating. Murong Qingqing followed behind him and said in a sweet voice, You have to be careful. I heard that Yan Qingfeng is back. Yan Qingfeng. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Hearing this name, he should be Yan Qingyang's brother. Naturally, he would not forget the grudge between him and Dao Ling Association. It would not take long for them to come knocking on his door. Sigh, how troublesome. Lin Xian was helpless. He realized that the Yan clan was like an annoying fly that kept circling around him. However, if they dared to come looking for trouble, he would let them know the power of the Lone Star Sword. Lin Xian touched the ancient sword on his back as a cold smile appeared on his face. Chapter 844. Brother, kill him. You must kill this kid. Avenge our Yan family's disciple. Yan Qingyang's eyes were red as he looked at a figure in front of him. It was also a young man with a burly figure and a handsome face. At this moment, he was standing in front with his hands behind his back. His expression was cold, and there was a piercing, murderous aura around him. He nodded slightly, then said coldly, Lin Xian, Lone Star Sword. I'll let you know that there are some people you can't touch, and there are some things you can't take. This person was Yan Qingyang's brother, Yan Qingfeng. He had received orders from his family to kill Lin Xian and take the Lone Star Sword. Let me see what you're capable of to cause such a huge commotion. He snorted coldly and walked outside. Senma College, Intermediate Spirit Tower. Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing walked side by side near the Intermediate Spirit Tower, which immediately attracted the attention of countless martial artists. They were not interested in Lin Xian, but the ancient blue sword on his back. Is that the Lone Star Sword? I can feel the cold aura on it from so far away. This guy is too arrogant. He actually dares to carry a half-Earth ranked treasure on his back. Someone snorted coldly, and his eyes were red with jealousy. With a beauty by his side and a treasure sword by his side, there was no doubt that Lin Xian had become the public enemy of many disciples in Senma College. Many pairs of rabbit-like eyes stared at Lin Xian with unfriendly expressions. However, no one dared to make a move. They had heard about what happened in Windy City. Although they did not see it, they were terrified just by hearing about it. To be able to bring the Lone Star Sword back safely from so many forces in Windy City was enough to show how powerful Lin Xian was. Lin Xian naturally saw the people around him as well, but he didn't care. These people were just talking. They didn't dare to actually do anything. However, the next moment, the crowd was in an uproar. It was as if they had discovered something shocking, and they dispersed like the tide. Lin Xian furrowed his brows and turned to look, only to see the crowd disperse and a group of people walk out from the gap. The person in the lead was a handsome young man with a stalwart figure. His gaze was steady, and his footwork was steady. Although he did not deliberately release his aura, it carried a powerful aura, causing the surrounding people to quietly shut their mouths. Seeing those people, Lin Xian's frown deepened. Although he didn't recognize the burly youth at the front, he did recognize the disciple beside him, Yan Qingyang. Lin Xian smiled when he saw the other party's ferocious expression. Needless to say, these people were all from the Tao Spirit Association, and the tall and sturdy young man at the front should be the legendary president of the Tao Spirit Association, Yan Qingfeng. The surrounding martial artists also took a deep breath, their expressions becoming extremely rich. Yan Qingfeng, I didn't expect him to come back. Everyone was shocked, and their eyes burned with passion. These people naturally wouldn't forget the battle between Lin Xian and Dao Ling Association. Back then, Yan Qingyang had provoked him, and was even severely injured. I think Yan Qingfeng will definitely not let Lin Xian off when he comes back this time. Lin Xian is dead for sure this time. Although he was powerful, Yan Qingfeng was a third-level honorable, and the difference in level and realm could crush him to death. Yeah, maybe he won't be able to keep the lone star sword then. If that's the case, then it'll be interesting. I really want to see what kind of expression Lin Xian will have when he's defeated. Yeah, this guy is too arrogant, running around with the lone star sword. Does he really think that no one can stop him? These people were jealous of Lin Xian, so their words were filled with sarcasm and jealousy. Yan Qingyang sneered and looked at Lin Xian with a strong provocation in his eyes. However, Lin Xian ignored him. Instead, he looked at Yan Qingfeng, who was at the front. This scene stunned Yan Qingyang. Then his face turned ugly. How dare Lin Xian ignore him? How despicable! Humph, I'll let you be smug for a little longer. When my brother attacks, you'll know what it means to live a life worse than death. Yan Qingyang snorted in his heart. He knew that as long as his brother attacked, Lin Xian would definitely not be able to withstand it. By then, he would humiliate Lin Xian properly and return all the anger he had suffered previously. You're Lin Xian? At this moment, Yan Qingfeng's eyes flickered, and he asked coldly, Who are you? Are you that Trash's brother? Lin Xian said casually. Throughout this process, he casually glanced at Yan Qingyang, and the disdain in his eyes was self-evident. You. Yan Qingyang was so angry that he vomited blood again. He gritted his teeth and growled, F***CK, I'll bear with this. I'll return it 100-fold later. Looks like you know who I am. In that case, I don't have to introduce myself. Yan Qingfeng's voice was cold. He looked at the lone star sword on Lin Xian's back with a burning gaze. I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Kneel down and destroy your own cultivation. Hand over the lone star sword obediently, and I'll give you a chance to live. The Yan family is really arrogant, Lin Xian sneered. Unfortunately, you're not the first to say that. In Wind-Seeking City, 3 disciples of the Yan family once said the same thing to me. In the end, they all died. Later on, there was an elite team of the Yan family led by a guardian elder. They also said the same thing to me, but they all died. I advise you to take back your words. Otherwise, you'll end up like them. What? The crowd was shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to have already fought with the Yan family. From the sound of it, he had killed many Yan family martial artists. If that was true, Lin Xian was too scary. Opposite him, Yan Qingfeng's face darkened. His eyes flashed, and his killing intent quickly gathered. Since you know the crime you've committed, that's great. Since you've done something, you must pay the price. And the price you have to pay is your life. His voice was cold, and the sound waves turned into sharp swords. It was as if the swords were going to pierce through Lin Xian. So arrogant, so domineering. Lin Xian sneered. But let me tell you, the people I killed all deserve to die. I killed the Yan family because they deserved to die. They were all greedy. They wanted to kill me and steal my Lone Star sword. If they weren't greedy and didn't provoke me, they wouldn't have been killed. Therefore, their deaths were entirely their own fault. As for you, if you're stubborn and want to steal the Lone Star sword, you'll end up like them. Humph, what a sharp tongue. No matter what you say, you won't be able to escape death. Yan Qingfeng's expression was cold. You're wrong. I'm just stating the truth. Since you want to fight, come at me. Lin Xian's eyes focused, and the aura on his body kept rising. He was like a peerless divine sword that was recovering quickly. Of course, I'll fight, Yan Qingfeng said coldly, but not today. 10 days later, we'll fight to the death in the life and death arena. I'll let you know that there's only one outcome for provoking the Yan family, and that's death. Chapter 845. The Ring of Life and Death. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Their eyelids twitched. It seemed that Yan Qingfeng was determined to kill Lin Xian. Otherwise, he would not have invited him to the Ring of Life and Death. One must know that the Immortal Martial Academy forbade students from killing each other. For example, in the battle between Lin Xian and Yan Qingyang, Lin Xian had only injured his opponent. He had not killed him. Therefore, if they were to fight now, Yan Qingyang could only defeat Lin Xian but not kill him. However, the Ring of Life and Death was different. It was a place that the college had set aside for students to settle their disputes. Fights were inevitable between martial artists, especially these geniuses. They were arrogant and did not want to admit defeat. If a martial artist in the college had reached a point where he would fight to the death, he could apply for the Ring of Life and Death. Now, Yan Qingfeng had invited Lin Xian to a Ring of Life and Death. The Ring of Life and Death. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he heard that. He had heard of the Ring of Life and Death and knew the rules. Once they entered the Ring of Life and Death, only one of them could survive. It seemed that Yan Qingfeng was determined to kill him. However, that was good too. The grudge between him and the Yan family was irreconcilable. Instead of leaving a scourge in the future, it was better to get rid of this genius now. Moreover, Yan Qingfeng was ranked 30th on the Mystic Venerable leaderboard. If he could defeat Yan Qingfeng, Lin Xian's ranking would jump from 70th to 30th. No matter how one looked at it, Lin Xian would benefit greatly. Therefore, he had no reason to refuse. 10 days later, the Ring of Life and Death will be as you wish. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous and his gaze was resolute. The crowd was shocked. Many people exclaimed. They did not expect Lin Xian to accept the Ring of Life and Death. Did he not know his opponent's strength? Yan Qingfeng was a third-level venerable. Moreover, he was not an ordinary third-level venerable. He was a genius and a senior in Senma College. He must have many trump cards in his hands. Such a person far surpassed those of the same level. Although Lin Xian was strong and could battle across realms, he could at most kill a second heaven venerable realm cultivator. Against a prodigy like Yan Qingfeng, he was not enough. In fact, it was very likely that he would be killed instantly. Yan Qingfeng smiled cruelly when he heard Lin Xian's reply. I advise you to enjoy your last moments, because in 10 days, I will definitely cut you down with my blade. He sneered, turned around, and left with the people of Dao Ling Association. Yan Qingyang looked at Lin Xian, his eyes full of mockery and disdain. Lin Xian actually dared to engage in a death match with his brother. He was really courting death. He couldn't wait to enjoy the scene of Lin Xian being killed 10 days later. Thinking of this, Yan Qingyang felt a twisted sense of pleasure. Are you confident? Murong Qingqing asked from the side. I'm not very sure. Only about 30 to 40%, Lin Xian said. He knows that Yan Qingfeng is definitely a very difficult opponent, so he's not arrogant. Only 30 to 40%? Murong Qingqing opened her eyes wide and complained. You actually dared to accept a death match with such a low success rate. I really don't know what you're thinking. Don't worry, there are still 10 days. Lin Xian smiled and comforted her. If I can break through to the second heaven venerable realm within 10 days, then my chances of winning will greatly increase. By then, there might be a miracle. Breakthrough? Murong Qingqing rolled her eyes at him. It seems that you've already thought about it. Why didn't you say so earlier? You made me worry for nothing. Oh, were you worried about me just now? Lin Xian suddenly smiled and said, to be able to get your concern, Goddess Murong, I have no regrets even if I die. He laughed and turned to walk toward the middle-level spirit gathering array. You, humph, who cares about you? Murong Qingqing's face was slightly red, and she stomped her feet in anger. It could be said that it was very urgent to break through to the second heaven venerable realm in 10 days, but Lin Xian had such confidence. The battle in Wind-Seeking City, a few days ago, had benefited him a lot. His spiritual energy value had already reached the peak of the first heaven venerable realm. As long as he was guided, he would be able to smoothly break through to the second heaven venerable realm. This was the benefit of fighting. This was also why countless warriors wanted to fight with their lives on the line. In battle, they could improve their skills and strengthen their martial skills. If they were lucky, they could even break through directly. And Lin Xian was fighting with the top experts. Every battle was very exciting and intense, so the speed of his breakthrough was far faster than his peers. 5 days later, Lin Xian successfully broke through, and the spiritual energy in his body almost doubled. Not only that, he felt that his relationship with the great dragon sword soul had become even closer. The kind of easy control made him unable to stop. It had to be said that the increase of his cultivation was extremely beneficial to him. Lin Xian estimated that his current strength had doubled compared to before. Now Lin Xian was confident that he could easily defeat Shang Wanxian, Kuang Zhan, and the others. With his current strength, he would not feel any pressure against an ordinary third heaven venerable. Even if he were to face a genius warrior like Yan Qingfeng, he was confident that he could win. Therefore, Lin Xian was not worried about the battle in 5 days. In the following days, Lin Xian began to consolidate his cultivation and comprehend other martial arts. Soon, 10 days had passed. The entire Senma College was in a frenzy of excitement. That was because today was the battle between Yan Qingfeng and Lin Xian. This was not an ordinary battle. First of all, both of them were experts on the mystic venerable leaderboard. Between them, Yan Qingfeng was more eye-catching. As a third heaven venerable and a genius warrior ranked 30th on the mystic venerable society, he could be said to be very dazzling. Moreover, the battle between the two of them was not an ordinary battle. It was a battle of life and death. This kind of battle was extremely intense. Usually, the battle would only end when one side died. Senma College rarely had this kind of battle in recent years. That was why everyone was so excited. Moreover, Lin Xian had a half-Earth rank treasure in his hands. This was one of the reasons why everyone was looking forward to it. One had to know that although everyone did not think that Lin Xian would win, if he used the Lone Star Sword, he could contend with Yan Qingfeng for a while. However, it was almost impossible for him to turn the tables. At most, it would allow Lin Xian to hold on for a while longer. This analysis was made by the experts of the college. In their opinion, this was already very impressive. According to their estimates, if Lin Xian did not use the Lone Star Sword, he would not even be able to block one attack. On this day, the weather was clear and the wind was gentle. In Senma College, countless disciples were running in one direction. Everyone had an excited expression on their faces. At this moment, in a corner of Senma College, there was a huge arena. This arena was very old and was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. It was an ancient arena. It was said that this arena was built by a king. Venerables below the king realm could not destroy it at all. It was most suitable for extremely intense battles like life and death battles. These people were dressed in blue and had the same pattern drawn on their bodies. It was an ice flower. The ice flower was blue and lifelike, emitting a cold aura. The leader of this group of people was a young girl wearing a blue dress. The young girl was beautiful and her eyes were clear, but her body carried a bone-piercing chill. With their arrival, the temperature of the entire space continued to drop, as if it had fallen into winter. "Snow Lady!" everyone exclaimed again, as they circulated their spiritual energy to resist the chill. Snow Lady, an ice-based warrior. She was extremely powerful and ranked 17th on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Her eyes were cold as she scanned the surroundings. Then she found a place and quietly waited for the battle to begin. In addition, another group of people had arrived. There were only 7 or 8 people in this group. However, no one dared to underestimate them because these people were too powerful. Each of them emitted a powerful aura that connected together. It was terrifying. The Gathering of Heroes was a very special organization. They had very few people, but every one of them was a powerhouse and could not be underestimated. The arrival of this group of people caused the entire space to fall into an extremely oppressive atmosphere. It could not be helped. These people's auras were too powerful. Although they did not deliberately release their auras, it was not something that ordinary warriors could withstand. One of them had an ordinary appearance, but his eyes were unusually sharp like a demonic beast. It made one's heart tremble. Lone Wolf ranked 33rd on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. His fighting style was extremely cruel, and very few people dared to provoke him. The arrival of Lone Wolf and the rest caused Yen Qingfeng to open his eyes. He nodded at Lone Wolf and the rest as a form of greeting. Lone Wolf also grinned. Then he looked around and scanned the surroundings. In the next moment, his face darkened. Humph! This Lin Xian is really arrogant. He actually made so many of us wait for him. Lone Wolf's voice was cold, and his tone was filled with dissatisfaction. The crowd was silent and did not dare to speak. It was obvious that Lone Wolf and Yen Qingfeng were in cahoots. At that moment, they were obviously targeting Lin Xian. I came late because I wanted to give some people more time to live. Since you don't appreciate my kindness, then forget it. A faint voice resounded and lingered in the surroundings. It was clearly heard. Humph! What arrogance! Lone Wolf frowned and snorted coldly. On the fighting ring, Yen Qingfeng suddenly opened his eyes and looked forward. His gaze was like a sharp sword that pierced through the void. The surrounding warriors were also shocked. They knew that Lin Xian had arrived. The crowd turned around and saw a group of warriors walking over from behind. The person at the front was Lin Xian. Today, Lin Xian wore a black shirt that fit him perfectly. On his back, he carried the Lone Star sword. His expression was calm, and his footwork was steady. He was like a sword immortal, calm and confident. That aura was very special, making people feel that it was very mysterious. Beside him was Morong Qingcheng, who was dressed in white. Her face was unparalleled, and her temperament was extraordinary. She was like a fairy. Behind Lin Xian, there were hundreds of warriors. These people were naturally members of the Dragon Sword Pavilion. Today was the day of their boss's life and death battle. No one was left behind. More than 500 people gathered together, forming a terrifying aura. Their clothes were the same, and their footwork was the same. When they stepped on the ground, they emitted an indescribable rhythm, causing the entire ground to tremble. So strong. Was this Lin Xian's strength? The gods were shocked and could not believe it. They knew that Lin Xian had established the Dragon Sword Pavilion, but they had never thought that the Dragon Sword Pavilion would develop so quickly. Now that it had reached such a scale, it was truly shocking. When Lone Wolf saw the 500 people from the Dragon Sword Pavilion, his expression changed slightly. He snorted coldly and said, "Today is a life and death battle. No matter how many people you bring, it's useless. I brought these people not to help me fight, but to clean up the trash," Lin Xian said indifferently. "This fly is too annoying. Which one of you will chase him out?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked, and their hearts trembled violently. Fly. Lin Xian actually called Lone Wolf a fly. Was he courting death? One had to know that Lone Wolf was a genius expert, ranked 33rd. In addition to his violent fighting style, his combat strength was not weaker than Yen Qingfeng's. Lin Xian actually called such a person a fly. No one dared to imagine what kind of anger Lone Wolf would erupt. Sure enough, after hearing Lin Xian's words, Lone Wolf's face darkened, and a terrifying killing intent erupted from his body. Kid, you'd better kneel down and kowtow to apologize. Otherwise, I guarantee that you won't have to go to the life and death arena. You'll die here. Lone Wolf's voice was cold, like a sharp blade that quickly cut through the void. Chapter 847. On the other hand, Yen, Snow Lady, and the rest narrowed their eyes as if they were watching a show. Lin Xian ignored Lone Wolf's threat and shook his head slightly as he spoke to Dongfang Xiong. Dongfang, throw this guy out. I don't want to see him. I don't want to affect my mood for the competition. Don't worry, Brother Xian. Dongfang Xiong laughed foolishly and took a step forward. His entire body exuded a dragon elephant aura. Following his action, the 500 members of the Dragon Sword Pavilion behind him roared in unison. How dare he insult their boss? He deserved to die. They didn't care if he was an expert on the sublime, venerable leaderboard. As long as he dared to insult their boss, he would be sent flying. 500 people gathered together. Their aura was terrifying. Moreover, these people weren't weak. More than half of them had entered the supremacy realm. With so many cultivators gathered together, not to mention the third-level venerated realm experts, even the elders' expressions changed drastically. They couldn't fight back. They couldn't fight back at all. Back then, Lin Xian had led 50 supremacies and barged into the Vientiane auction. Now, the members of the Dragon Sword Pavilion were 10 times more than before. Their power was also 10 times more than before. Terrifying spiritual energy soared from the 500 people. It formed a huge hand in the air and slammed down. You're courting death. Die. Lone Wolf roared. An extremely powerful aura erupted from his body as he fought against the huge hand in the sky. However, everything he did was in vain. Although he was a third-level supremacies, and there was a suppression between supremacies, he wasn't facing one person. He was facing 500 experts. All 500 of them were geniuses. Although they weren't as strong as him, their talents weren't any weaker than his. Now that the 500 people had gathered together, he couldn't fight back at all. Poof! A string of blood splattered down from the sky as Lone Wolf was sent flying. The void was torn apart. His body was like a shooting star as he instantly disappeared into the horizon. Silence. Absolute silence. All the martial artists around the life and death ring were stunned. The powerful Lone Wolf, an expert ranked 33rd on the sublime, venerable leaderboard, was sent flying just like that. Seeing the members of the Dragon Sword Pavilion, everyone gasped. They didn't dare to be presumptuous. In the life and death ring, Yen Qingfeng frowned. The other party's society was indeed a terrifying force that could even threaten him. But so what? Today's match was a battle of life and death. No one could help Lin Xian. In a one-on-one battle, Yen Qingfeng had absolute confidence. Although you can make Lone Wolf leave the stage, it's all in vain. On the life and death arena, no one can help you. Once you lose the support of a force, you are nothing. Killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Is that so? I look forward to it. Lin Xian smiled faintly. He slowly walked forward with steady steps. A powerful sword will gushed out from his body. On the other side, Yen Qingfeng also exuded a terrifying aura that was filled with murderous intent. Moreover, it contained the powerful aura of a third sky venerable realm cultivator, which pressed down on Lin Xian. The two auras clashed in the void, creating a terrifying sound of collision. Yen Qingfeng looked disdainful. He was 2 levels higher than Lin Xian. He could crush Lin Xian to death with his aura alone. He knew that too. Therefore, before going on the stage, he wanted to use his cultivation to humiliate Lin Xian. He wanted Lin Xian to know the consequences of offending the Yan family. However, to his surprise, Lin Xian was not pressed down. Instead, Lin Xian blocked his aura. How is that possible? The others were shocked, too. They did not expect Lin Xian to be able to block it. Lin Xian smiled faintly. I can tell from your expression that your plan has failed again. Although I don't want to admit it, I still have to say that I seem to be the nemesis of the Yan family. Therefore, you have to be careful. Don't die because of me. Humph! Yan Qingfeng snorted. He squinted his eyes and stared at Lin Xian. Then he looked surprised. You've broken through. No wonder you're so arrogant. Even if you're a second sky venerable, it's still not enough. I'll let you know how big the gap between us is. Cherish this moment. Today will be the last time you're arrogant. Lin Xian shook his head slightly and walked towards the combat ring quickly. With every step he took, the sword intent on his body grew stronger. In the end, the entire space was shrouded by the terrifying sword light, as if it was going to tear the 9 heavens apart. The surrounding crowd was shocked and retreated quickly. They could not withstand the pressure of the aura. Then Lin Xian stepped onto the combat ring. Sword chi exploded like a peerless sword and slashed forward. Too powerful. Lin Xian was like a sword god. He was extremely sharp and pointed his sword at Yan Qingfeng. Activate! As Lin Xian stepped onto the combat ring, the surrounding elders of the academy shouted. Then they waved their hands and injected spiritual energy into the combat ring. In the end, the entire combat ring shook rapidly and formed a sealed space. Only when one party died would the combat ring open again and release the winner. Otherwise, both parties would be sealed in the combat ring. This was the combat ring. Once one entered the combat ring, life and death would be decided immediately. Only those who were alive could leave the combat ring. Looking at Lin Xian opposite him, Yan Qingfeng became extremely cold. A violent and cold murderous aura was released from his body and quickly spread in all directions. In his eyes, a cold blade flashed. Today, he was going to kill his opponent and take the Lone Star Sword to clear the name of his family. Kid, although you've broken through to the second sky of the honorable realm, you're still nothing in front of me. Take out the Lone Star Sword. Otherwise, you won't stand a chance. Hearing this, many people nodded in agreement. Indeed, although Lin Xian was powerful, the gap between them was too big. If he did not use the Lone Star Sword, he would have been killed instantly. However, Lin Xian smiled faintly. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Then he slowly took out the Lone Star Sword from his back. Hearing this, many people shook their heads. They all thought that Lin Xian had gone overboard. One should know that even with the Lone Star Sword, he could at most fight evenly with Yan Qingfeng. It was impossible for him to defeat Yan Qingfeng. However, Lin Xian was extremely confident. After he had broken through to the second sky of the honorable realm, his chances of winning had increased to 80%. This was still under the condition that he did not use the Lone Star Sword. If he used the Lone Star Sword now, he would definitely win. In fact, in his opinion, if he used the Lone Star Sword, this battle would become very meaningless. However, this was a battle of life and death. He could not afford to be careless. In a battle of this nature, he had to be fast, ruthless, and accurate. Therefore, even if Yan Qingfeng did not say it, he had decided to use the Lone Star Sword to end the battle quickly. Opposite him, Yan Qingfeng snorted. In his opinion, even if Lin Xian had the Lone Star Sword, he would definitely be able to kill his opponent. This was because he was not an ordinary third sky of the honorable realm. He was a genius martial artist. Chapter 848. Yan Qingfeng was very confident. Regardless of whether Lin Xian used the Lone Star Sword or not, he would still be able to kill him. He was very confident in his own strength. He extended his palm, and a snow-white long saber appeared in his hand. The saber radiance flickered and cut through the void easily. Needless to say, it was a treasured saber. With the saber in hand, Yan Qingfeng's entire body became sharp. His aura was unbearable. Next, you will know how big the gap between us is. Even if you have the Lone Star sword, you won't be able to make up for it. He snorted coldly and waved his arm. The snow-white long saber fell, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. Along with it was a dazzling saber radiance that merged into one. The crowd was shocked, and their hearts trembled. Yan Qingfeng was too powerful. Just a normal attack was unbearable. He was indeed a genius martial artist who was ranked 30th on the Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. Lin Xian's expression was grave. Yan Qingfeng's attack could threaten his safety. He used the illusory demonic steps and dodged quickly. At the same time, he waved the long sword in his hand. He became one with the sword and charged toward Yan Qingfeng. You want to fight in close combat? You're courting death. Yan Qingfeng sneered. The saber in his hand flickered even more. With his earth-rank body movement, Lin Xian was very fast. He arrived in front of Yan Qingfeng in an instant. The next moment, the great dragon sword soul exploded. A shocking murderous aura and a blood-red sword radiance accompanied the Lone Star sword as it pierced forward. In an instant, the entire sky was dyed red, as if hell had descended. Boom, poof. With one strike, the two of them quickly moved to opposite ends of the arena. That's fast. What happened? The crowd was anxious and discussed quickly. They could not see the attack clearly at all. They could only feel the horrifying power spreading in all directions. The Lone Star sword is only SSO. Yan Qingfeng turned around and sneered. However, before he could finish his sentence, his expression changed drastically. His entire face was distorted. Poof. The next moment, blood spurted out of his right arm like a river of blood. It was terrifying. His entire right arm was separated from his body and fell to the ground. My arm. What happened? The crowd was stunned and could not believe it. At that moment, everyone was stunned. It was as if they were dreaming. The powerful Yan Qingfeng's arm was cut off. This was too unbelievable. Lin Xian. How is Lin Xian? Everyone hurriedly turned their heads and looked to the other side. They knew that the moment they exchanged blows, the two of them must have had an intense collision. Otherwise, such a shocking thing would not have happened. God, he's fine. Someone cried out in alarm, not daring to believe it. Lin Xian stood proudly with his sword in his hand. His sleeves were torn, and the cut was even. It was cut by the long blade, but his body was unharmed. With one strike, Yan Qingfeng was defeated. The previously incomparably arrogant and domineering Yan Qingfeng was actually defeated in one move. Was Lin Xian too terrifying, or was the Lone Star sword too powerful? The crowd did not know, but they knew that Yan Qingfeng had lost the match. Without his right arm, his battle prowess would definitely drop drastically. How could he possibly withstand the Lone Star sword's attacks? And the consequence of failure was death. Impossible. This is impossible. Outside the arena, Yan Qingyang was trembling in disbelief. He knew his elder brother's strength. Even a third-level honorable realm of the older generation was no match for him. However, such a person had actually been defeated. Furthermore, he had been defeated in a single move. Just how powerful was Lin Xian? The Tao Spirit Association side was dead silent, but the Dragon Sword Pavilion side was jubilant. Murong Qingqing's beautiful eyes also turned, her face full of surprise. Yi Yan, Snow Lady, and the rest were also extremely shocked. They did not expect such a situation either. What a fast sword! In the distance, a few elders of the academy exclaimed, looking at Lin Xian with sparkling eyes. This kid is incredible. Even without the Lone Star Sword, he can still win. However, the Lone Star Sword has shortened the process infinitely. Yes, such a fast sword is very rare among the younger generation. Not bad, not bad. Perhaps he is qualified to enter that place. A few elders conversed, and they were very optimistic about Lin Xian. In the life and death ring, Yan Qingfeng's body trembled. He looked at the severed arm and fell into a daze. This should not be. This was not the result he had expected. How could his opponent have such a powerful attack? The Lone Star Sword. It must be the Lone Star Sword. His eyes were filled with madness as he stared ahead. Is this the power of a half-Earth-rank treasure? So powerful. I must get it. He roared to the sky, and the aura on his body erupted like a flood. Boom. The void exploded, and a black lightning bolt floated in the sky with terrifying power. Die, brat. Yan Qingfeng roared, and released his martial soul to attack. Rumble. In an instant, lightning surged, shattering everything. The sea of lightning surged, and it was extremely terrifying. This scene was too terrifying. The entire sky was a sea of lightning, and it quickly enveloped Lin Xian. Gulp. Countless people swallowed their saliva. This kind of attack was terrifying. Even a third-rank honorable would be turned into ashes in an instant. Lin Xian also felt the danger. Without hesitation, he quickly held the Lone Star Sword with both hands and displayed the Great Dragon Sword Soul to the extreme. Gale Lightning Sword, 3 moves frighten ghosts and gods. A sword chi, as thick as a mountain and as fierce as a sword god, quickly slashed down. Boom. The void trembled, and the endless sea of lightning swayed before it was mercilessly cut open. The scene was terrifying. It was as if the dark night had been forcefully torn open by a pair of large hands. Countless rays of light surged in, and the sky regained its clarity. The entire life and death ring trembled. If not for the special material, it would have been destroyed long ago. Drip, drip. There was a pool of blood dripping in front, but Yan Qingfeng's figure had disappeared. Gulp. Countless people swallowed their saliva with difficulty, unable to believe what had happened. Another sword. In just one sword, Yan Qingfeng was dead. Throughout the entire process, Lin Xian had only attacked twice. However, these 2 attacks had taken Yan Qingfeng's life. The first attack had cut off Yan Qingfeng's right arm, directly destroying all of Yan Qingfeng's beliefs. The second attack had directly killed Yan Qingfeng. The entire process was very short, and it took less than half an hour. No, this can't be real. Demon, demon. Below, Yan Qingyang screamed in horror, and his body trembled. In the next moment, he turned around and fled. Yan Qingfeng was dead, and he did not even have the courage to face Lin Xian. The martial artists of Dao Ling Association also quickly retreated, disappearing into the crowd. Everyone knew that from today onwards, Dao Ling Association no longer existed. Buzz. On the life and death ring, the special enchantment disappeared. The entire ring quickly faded, and it fell into a deep sleep again. Brother Xian, Brother Xian, the people of Dragon Sword Pavilion shouted crazily. They were too excited. Lin Xian's strength had shocked their new god. This was their boss, the boss of Dragon Sword Pavilion. At this moment, the people of Dragon Sword Pavilion were extremely excited. They realized that joining Dragon Sword Pavilion was the best choice. Chapter 849. The news that Lin Xian had defeated Yan Qingfeng spread like wildfire throughout Senma College. Everyone knew that this new student was too amazing. He had risen to power and would definitely be one of the top fighters in the college in the future. Lin Xian had defeated Yan Qingfeng and was ranked 30th on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. This advancement speed was terrifying. It was probably rare in Senma College for the past 100 years. His Mystic Sovereign mirror had evolved again, and it was accompanied by rich spiritual chi. The spiritual chi was too rich. With the Mystic Sovereign mirror, he did not need to go to the intermediate spiritual tower anymore. Therefore, he went into seclusion after returning to experience the benefits of the Mystic Sovereign mirror. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. However, on this day, Lin Xian had a guest in his courtyard. It was a delicate and cute girl with big eyes and long black hair. She looked like a little fairy. This young girl was wearing a long blue and white dress. There was an ice flower painted on the cuffs of her sleeves. It was as if it was real, and it was emitting traces of coldness. "You are—" Lin Xian was stunned when he saw the girl. He did not know her, but he had seen the symbol on her clothes before. 2 days ago, when he was in a death match, there was a group of people wearing the same clothes near the arena. "I'm Shueman," the girl said softly. "I'm from the Ice and Snow Pavilion in the Self-Study Institute." Ice and Snow Pavilion. Lin Xian nodded slightly. He remembered very clearly that the person who led the Ice and Snow Pavilion that day was a girl with long silver hair. She was terrifyingly powerful, and even stronger than Yan Qingfeng. "Why are you looking for me?" "I'm not the one looking for you. My sister is looking for you. Come with me." "Your sister?" Lin Xian was confused. You're so stupid. My sister is the owner of the Ice and Snow Pavilion. Ice Fairy. She's also the snow lady that you guys call. Ice Fairy? Why is she looking for me? Lin Xian was even more confused. They did not know each other. "You'll know when you get there." The girl pouted. "I say, you're a big man. Don't tell me you don't dare to go." "Why wouldn't I dare?" Lin Xian smiled. "Lead the way." Very quickly, under Sherman's lead, the two of them left the freshman area and headed east of Senma College. After flying for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Shueman finally stopped. In front of him was a valley covered in snow and ice. There were even snowflakes falling from the sky. How strange. Lin Xian was surprised. He didn't think that there would be such a strange place in the academy. Actually, this was normal. Senma College was very big, far bigger than what he knew. There were all kinds of landforms, mountains, rivers, lakes, and everything else. A snowy valley wasn't much. Walking into the valley, Lin Xian discovered that there were several blue pavilions inside, presumably the residences of these people. Not far from the left side of the pavilions, there was a blue bamboo forest. Every bamboo was crystal clear, as if they were made of ice and snow. This was frost bamboo, and it contained a powerful frost power. For martial artists who cultivated the ice attribute, it was a very good supplementary cultivation item. At this moment, in front of the forest of frost bamboo, there was a white figure looking at Lin Xian with an expressionless face. "It's so cold." Feeling that gaze, Lin Xian was shocked. The coldness in the other party's gaze made him feel uneasy. "Sister Ice Fairy, I've brought him." Shueman smiled faintly at the beautiful figure in white. Ice Fairy nodded slightly, then looked at Lin Xian again. Lin Xian also looked at the other party. Putting aside the coldness, Ice Fairy was definitely a stunning beauty. Her beautiful face and exquisite figure were wrapped in a white dress, and her alluring curves could be vaguely seen. Although her delicate face was expressionless, it was not hard to imagine that if that face smiled, it would make everything in the world pale in comparison. What was even more peculiar was that she had a head of silver hair, which added a touch of mystery to her already stunning beauty. "Greetings, Sister Ice Fairy," Lin Xian said. No matter what, the other party was a senior, and he still had to show some courtesy. "Junior brother Lin, you're too polite," Ice Fairy said calmly. "I invited you here because I have a mission for you to participate in. I wonder if you're interested." Mission? What mission? Lin Xian was surprised. A mission that the Snow Girl accepted was definitely not ordinary. A 4-star mission. A 4-star mission. Lin Xian was surprised. His eyes narrowed. Then he said, "Only seniors can accept 4-star missions. I'm just a freshman. I don't think I have the qualifications." With regards to the rules of the Immortal Martial Academy, Lin Xian had already familiarized himself with them. In Senma College, a large number of missions were issued almost every day. These missions were divided into 1-star to 5-star missions according to their difficulty. Normally, freshmen could only accept the first 3-star missions at the beginning. It seemed unreasonable, but this was a rule that the college made after careful consideration to protect the freshmen's safety. It was important to note that 3-star missions were already very difficult. Basically, one needed to be at least a venerable to complete them. Among the freshmen, only a few genius warriors were qualified to complete such missions. Most of the other freshmen could only accept 1-star or 2-star missions at most. They could only accept higher-level missions after they had stayed in the college for a year and became seniors. As if sensing Lin Xian's confusion, the ice spirit explained, "The Eastern Phoenix's martial soul is a little special, so I chose her." "I see." Lin Xian nodded. "If there's nothing else, we'll leave in 3 days. When the time comes, you can come to the Ice Spirit Valley, and we'll set off together." "All right." Lin Xian nodded. Just as he was about to leave, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind him. A figure came to the Ice Spirit Valley at lightning speed. It was a wild-looking young man. He wore a beast robe, and his hair was messy. His eyes were extremely sharp, like a demonic beast. The young man landed and looked around. When he saw Lin Xian, his face filled with shock. His pupils constricted, and a look of nervousness and fear appeared on his face. At this moment, Lin Xian also saw that person. However, the corners of his mouth curled into a playful smile. The wild-looking young man was none other than Lone Wolf, who had been sent flying a few days ago. Lin Xian didn't expect to meet him in the Ice Spirit Valley. Seeing the smile on Lin Xian's face, Lone Wolf snorted coldly as a cold glint appeared in his eyes. However, he quickly restrained himself and turned to speak to the Ice Spirit. "Icicle Fairy, I wonder if you've considered the matter I mentioned before?" Lone Wolf's eyes shone with a strange light. He was looking forward to it. Ice Spirit said calmly, "The last person has been chosen. It's Lin Xian. As for you, we can work together in the future, if there's a chance." "What? Lin Xian?" Lone Wolf's face darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He turned his head and stared at Lin Xian fiercely. He clenched his fists, and his whole body trembled. He didn't expect that the last person for the treasure hunting mission would be Lin Xian. He couldn't accept it. The treasure hunting mission was very popular. However, he could only give up because he couldn't defeat either Ice Spirit or Lin Xian. "If that's the case, then forget it. We can work together in the future." Lone Wolf cupped his fists and left the Ice Spirit Valley in a flash. 5,000 meters away from the Ice Spirit Valley, there were a few figures who seemed to be waiting for something. "He's out." So fast, they raised their heads and looked at the sky. "How was it? Did you succeed?" Looking at Lone Wolf, one of them asked. "No, the last person was snatched." Gulu's face was gloomy and his voice was cold. "Who dares to snatch Boss's name? Could it be one of the top 20? "No, it's Lin Xian." Lone Wolf gritted his teeth and said. His eyes were full of murderous intent and hatred. Hearing this, the others were shocked as well. Fear appeared on their faces. They clearly remembered the life and death battle from before. Lin Xian wielded the Lone Star Sword and killed Yen Qingfeng instantly. Most people believed that Lin Xian's victory was due to his half-earth step artifact. Chapter 851. The other two were equally powerful. One of them wore a long purple robe and had a pale face, as if he had not seen the sun for many days. What was even more peculiar was that his eyes were also purple and filled with a sense of mystery. The other person was a tall and burly young man. The purple-eyed young man was called Yi Yen, ranked 25th on the Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. The burly young man was called Yang Lin, ranked 36th on the Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. Bing Ling nodded at Lin Xian and introduced the other two. Then he pointed at Lin Xian and said, "This is the last member of our team, Lin Xian. I believe you guys are familiar with him." "Haha, Brother Lin, how can I not be familiar with you? The battle of life and death that day was amazing." Yang Lin laughed. Indeed, almost everyone in the college knew who Lin Xian was. After all, the battle of life and death a few days ago was still fresh in their minds. "I didn't expect you to be so lucky to get a half-Earth rank weapon." Beside him, Dongfeng Phoenix rolled her eyes and snorted. Yi Yan and the rest also looked behind Lin Xian with sparkling eyes. "Junior Brother Lin, our mission this time is to find treasures. It's better to keep a low profile. If you carry the Lone Star Sword like this, I'm afraid you'll attract a lot of unnecessary trouble." Bing Ling frowned. "I'm really sorry. Due to cultivation, I can't put away the Lone Star Sword for the time being." Lin Xian apologized. "How about this? I'll wrap the Lone Star Sword with a cloth to cover its appearance. That should help us avoid some trouble. How about this? I have a veil made of heavenly quicksand that can block soul detection. If you wrap the Lone Star Sword with it, it'll be foolproof," Bing Ling said. "Heavenly quicksand? Block soul detection. That's good stuff." Hearing this, everyone's eyes sparkled. Heavenly quicksand was something that could block soul detection. Naturally, it was good stuff. They did not expect Bing Ling to give it to Lin Xian. Bing Ling waved her hand, and a 1-meter-long blue scarf flew out and landed in Lin Xian's hand. "Thank you, senior sister." Lin Xian took it and smiled. "Senior sister, I have a small spatial teleportation platform. I'll give it to you now." Finished speaking, Lin Xian took out a profound jade platform. Since the other party was willing to give him a treasure that could isolate his divine sense, he naturally couldn't accept it empty-handed. Thus, he planned to use the profound jade pedestal to exchange for it. Spatial teleportation. Everyone was shocked again, their eyes burning with passion. They didn't expect Lin Xian to have such a treasure on him. At a critical moment, this kind of thing could save his life. Bing Ling paused for a moment, then smiled. "Thank you, Junior Brother Lin. I'll take it." Her smile was like a melting ice that had been frozen for 10,000 years, causing the world to lose its color. Even Lin Xian was momentarily dazed. He had to admit that Bing Ling was definitely a peerless beauty. Taking a deep breath and calming himself down, Lin Xian used the heavenly quicksand to wrap the Lone Star Sword. Then he wrapped it with a layer of black cloth before carrying it on his back. This way, he could feel the Lone Star Sword close to him and isolate himself from other people's divine senses to avoid trouble. "Everyone is almost ready. Let's go." Bing Ling put away her smile and said lightly. Hearing this, Lin Xian and the others nodded and quickly moved. The 5 of them formed a team and quickly flew out of Senma College. Our destination this time is the Heishui River. It's relatively close to the center of the Blood Realm. At this speed, we can reach it in about 10 days. Flying like this consumes too much spiritual power. Why don't we use this? Lin Xian waved his sleeve and patted his demon beast pouch. Suddenly, a golden figure appeared and expanded in the wind, turning into a golden divine condor that was dozens of feet long. Demon General, what a powerful demon chi. Everyone's expressions changed when they saw the golden divine condor. Let's all get on. After all, 10 days of traveling will consume a lot of energy, Bing Ling said. Then she flashed and landed on the back of the golden divine condor. The others also jumped and got on the divine condor. The 5 of them sat cross-legged on the back of the golden divine condor. Next, Bing Ling began to explain the treasure hunting mission. First, their destination this time, the Heishui River. This was a very magical area and was very famous in the Blood Realm. It was said that thousands of years ago, countless powerhouses fought a great battle near the Heishui River. As for the reason of the battle, no one remembered. However, that battle was extremely tragic and was recorded in history. Countless powerhouses died, and blood flowed like a river. The blood that flowed into the river turned into black water. It was only because of such strange occurrences that the Black Water River became famous. Those powerhouses fell far behind. Their treasures, storage rings, and other treasures all fell near the Heishui River. In the past few hundred years, there were lucky people who obtained powerful inheritances and powerful treasures near the Heishui River, which changed their fates. Therefore, the Heishui River became a treasure hunting ground. Our mission this time is also at the Heishui River. According to the information, this should be a treasure cave left behind by an 8th heaven venerable. Bing Ling said, "The Heishui River is not just a river, but a vast area," Bing Ling said slowly. "This time, we will go to the Heishui city to settle down. It is the largest city within 10,000 miles. The city lord of the Heishui city was a 4th heaven venerable. He could be considered an overlord in this area." As Bing Ling explained, the golden-feathered godly eagle spread its wings and flew quickly in the void like a bolt of golden lightning. About 7 or 8 days later, the outline of a huge city appeared. It was like a wild beast entrenched on the ground. "Let's land in the Heishui city first. Everyone take a rest and gather information," Bing Ling said. "After all, we are not the only team in the Heishui city. There may be other forces with the same goal as us, so we must be prepared." He was very comprehensive. Obviously, he was very familiar with this kind of treasure hunting mission. Lin Xian and the others had no objections. They all nodded in agreement. Then, the 5 of them left the golden-feathered godly eagle and flew into the sky. Lin Xian waved his hand and called the golden-feathered godly eagle back. He followed the others and landed in front of the city. Lin Xian squinted his eyes and looked ahead. It was an extremely majestic city. It was completely black and emitted a murderous aura. The city was huge. It did not seem to be any weaker than Windy City. At the city gate, martial artists came and went in an endless stream. Most of them came to the Heishui city to look for treasures. "Let's go in," Bing Ling said softly. Then he took the lead and walked forward. Lin Xian and the others followed behind. They paid the spiritual stones and entered the Heishui city. The city was even more prosperous. There were all kinds of materials. It was a dazzling sight. Yi Yan and the others were okay. After all, they were seniors and had been to many places. However, it was Dongfang Phoenix's first time in a city like this. Her beautiful eyes were full of excitement. "Junior sister Dongfang, these things are just for show. The real good stuff is in the city," Bing Ling said. "Later, I will bring you to see the real trading area of the Heishui city." Bing Ling and the others walked into the main hall. Then she turned around and said to Lin Xian and the others, "Everyone find a futon and sit on it." Lin Xian looked around and realized that there were no chairs in the hall, only prayer mats. Each prayer mat represented a position, and many of the prayer mats were already seated. Although Lin Xian took a quick glance, he discovered that none of these people were weak. The 5 of them found 5 futons side by side and sat down. Then they began to look around carefully. The surrounding people all had different expressions on their faces. Some were talking in low voices, while others were resting with their eyes closed, as if they were waiting for something. At this moment, a presumptuous laughter rang out in the hall. It was filled with endless temptation as it spread out in all directions. Many people frowned when they heard this voice, but they did not say anything. Lin Xian was very curious. He turned his head and looked to the left in front of him. That was where the voice came from. There was a girl with a hot figure there. She had a hot figure, a pretty face, and a pair of seductive eyes that could captivate one's soul. Not only that, but she was also wearing very revealing clothes. She only wore a thin purple dress that revealed her slender thighs and the snow-white soft flesh on her chest. On both sides of her were 2 young men. Their auras were ordinary, and they were only in the spirit-detecting realm. However, they were both very handsome. Such handsome young men should have been pursued by thousands of girls, but at this moment, they were like servants trying their best to please the seductive girl. The seductive girl had a look of enjoyment on her face as she teased the 2 handsome young men. From time to time, she would let out extremely seductive sounds. Behind the seductive girl sat an old woman with a head full of white hair. Her eyes were slightly closed, as if she was asleep. However, Lin Xian keenly noticed that the old woman was emitting a faint aura that surrounded the seductive girl. It seemed that the old woman with a head full of white hair was the seductive girl's guardian. Humph! Seeing this indecent scene, Dongfang Fenghuang snorted coldly. She was obviously very angry. Yang Lin, on the other hand, widened his eyes in disbelief. "That's the daughter of the Blackwater City Lord," Ling explained in a low voice. The daughter of the Blackwater City Lord. Lin Xian and the others were shocked. They did not expect that the seductive girl was the daughter of the city lord. That's right. Look at the black dragon on her chest. That's the symbol of the Blackwater City Lord's mansion. Not only that, the old woman behind her is also a 3rd Heaven Honorable Realm Expert. She has the symbol of the City Lord's mansion and is protected by a 3rd Heaven Honorable Realm Expert. I'm afraid that in the entire Blackwater City, only the daughter of the City Lord can receive such treatment. Bing Ling's voice was cold and emotionless. It was obvious that she was very disgusted by the seductive girl's behavior. I didn't expect the people from the Iron Sword sect to be here too. Yi Yen also exclaimed as a purple light flickered in his eyes. Lin Xian looked over and saw a group of warriors carrying iron swords on their backs in front and to the right. They were of different ages. The oldest was an old man, and the youngest was a young man. These people wore different clothes and had different expressions. However, all of them carried iron swords on their backs. They also carried a sharp aura that belonged to swordsmen. The Iron Sword sect. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed as he looked at the warriors. As a swordsman, he could feel that they were powerful. Moreover, these were the few swordsmen that he had seen who carried long swords on their backs. Generally, martial artists would have storage rings, weapons, and such would be placed in the storage ring and would only be taken out during battle. However, these people from the Iron Sword sect carried long swords on their backs. They were indeed unique. However, Lin Xian soon understood and shook his head. He was also carrying a treasure sword on his back. If not for the sky quicksand, he would have attracted their attention. Is the Iron Sword sect very powerful? Dongfang Fenghuang asked, puzzled. Within 10,000 miles of the Blackwater River, there are three most powerful forces. They are the Blackwater City, the Iron Sword sect, and the Huangfu clan. These three forces occupy different areas. They usually don't interact with each other. Now that the people from the Iron Sword sect have come to the Blackwater City, they must be here for the treasure. Perhaps these people have received some news. There's no other way. Every time a rare treasure appears, it will cause quite a stir. These forces are all near the Blackwater River. They must have received the news in advance, Yang Lin said in a deep voice. Chapter 853. Sure enough, the Huangfu family is here too. Bing Ling's voice was solemn. Lin Xian turned his head and saw another group of people coming from the entrance. These people looked arrogant, and their bodies were shrouded in a layer of yellow light, exuding a powerful aura. The leader was a middle-aged man in a yellow robe. He strode in, came to the futon at the front, and sat down quickly. Seeing these people's confident and overbearing behavior, Lin Xian knew that they must be from the Huangfu family. He did not expect the three major forces of Blackwater City to appear here at the same time. What's in this hall? How can it attract people from the three major forces? Lin Xian was very curious. Bing Ling and the others looked solemn. They realized that this treasure hunt might be more difficult than they thought. After about 30 minutes, a group of people came out from the depths of the hall and walked to the crystal platform in front of the futon. Suddenly, the martial artists in the hall opened their eyes and looked forward with passion. Some of them even trembled with excitement. It looked like an auction, but according to Bing Ling, it should be an elixir pavilion. Lin Xian frowned slightly. What was this so-called elixir pavilion doing? In front, an old man with the demeanor of a transcendent being slowly walked towards the crystal platform. He looked around and laughed. Fellow cultivators, I've made you wait for a long time. I'm Gong Sun Gu. I'm sure everyone knows me. First of all, thank you for coming to Jade Hall Elixir Pavilion. Your wait will not be in vain. You will definitely get what you want here. Is Jade Hall Elixir Pavilion very famous? Dongfang Phoenix asked. Of course. Jade Hall Elixir Pavilion has a powerful force behind it. It seems to be related to Green Hill Chamber of Commerce. Although the three major forces of Blackwater City are powerful, they dare not provoke Jade Hall Elixir Pavilion. I see. Lin Xian suddenly understood. No wonder when Gong Sun Gu and the others came out, even the daughter of the governor of Blackwater City restrained herself. On the crystal platform, the old man named Gong Sun Gu introduced and said solemnly, "Next, we will get down to business." With that, he waved his sleeve and a palm-sized pill bottle appeared on the crystal platform. The old man smiled and slowly opened the bottle. Immediately, a strong pill fragrance floated out. Not only that, the pill fragrance wafted in the air, forming a 3-foot-tall green demonic beast phantom. It was incomparably ferocious and lifelike. This is Dongfang Feng Huang, and the others were astonished, their mouths agape. Lin Xian's eyes also narrowed as a light flickered in his eyes. He did not expect that the level of alchemy in this place would be so high. The cyan shadow above the pill bottle was clearly the manifestation of the pill fragrance. This kind of method was not just a matter of the grade of the pill. The quality of the pill was even more important. It was obvious that the pills in front of him were of extremely high quality, regardless of rank or quality. At this moment, old man Gongsun also spoke. Everyone, this medicinal pellet is called the Cyan Spirit Pellet. It is concocted using the Cyan Spirit Beast's monstrous core. After taking this pill, it can greatly increase a martial artist's speed. It can double a martial artist's speed within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. This is definitely a rare medicinal pill. I hope that everyone will consider it carefully and not miss this golden opportunity." Hearing this, many people were shocked and their expressions changed. Doubling one's speed was an incredible thing. One should know that if one's speed suddenly increased during a battle, it would definitely catch the opponent off guard. Moreover, increasing one's speed was something that could only be done by secret skills. However, a medicinal pill could solve this problem. Even Lin Xian and the others were surprised. In the world of martial arts, only speed was unbeatable. If one could greatly increase one's speed, it would definitely increase one's strength. At this moment, Old Man Gongsun looked at the lively scene below and chuckled. The starting price of the cyan spirit pellet is 5 million spiritual stones. The bidding starts now. Bidding. Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect that these medicinal pills would be sold in an auction. However, the others in the hall were used to it. As soon as Old Man Gongsun finished speaking, someone began to bid. Dongfang Fengwang's beautiful eyes moved as she listened to the rising price. She was very surprised. She did not expect a small medicinal pill to be auctioned for nearly 10 million spiritual stones. In the end, the cyan spirit pellet was bought by a slightly plump middle-aged man at the price of 5 million spiritual stones. Next, Old Man Gongsun took out another medicinal pill and began the auction. Every single one of these pills had a unique effect, and it was truly amazing. Lin Xian looked at the heated scene in the hall and narrowed his eyes. However, he did not intend to make a move. He knew that behind the miraculous effects of these medicinal pills, there should be a significant side effect. After all medicinal pills had side effects. Everything was relative. When one obtained something, one would also have to pay a price. Therefore, one's own strength was the most reliable thing. Bing Ling and the others also did not make a move. Although the medicinal pills before were miraculous, they were not interested in them. One should know that these people were all favored by the heavens. Perhaps only those extremely unique items could make them make a move. Everyone, the next medicinal pill is very rare. Someone spent a lot of effort to obtain it from the Blackwater River. Chapter 8:54. Hearing that, the others nodded. They also wanted to know how much qi and blood this pill could increase. As expected of an expert from the Huangfu family, "You're really thoughtful." Old Man Gongsun laughed. This pill was dug out from an ancient ruin. As for its effects, we once invited a grade 6 alchemist to examine it, but he didn't find out its exact medicinal effects. However, that grade 6 alchemist strongly recommended it. He believed that this pill was definitely refined by an alchemy grandmaster who surpassed him. All right, let's begin the auction. The starting price is 3 million spirit stones, Old Man Gongsun said quickly. Below, the crowd booed. This was clearly a pit of fire, although it was crowned with the title of a grade 6 alchemist who would buy it if its effects weren't even confirmed. Most people shook their heads and ignored it. However, there was also a small group of people who revealed interested gazes. Among them, there was a martial artist who offered 4 million to try his luck. There were also some warriors who didn't lack money who wanted to hide this pill book so that they could show it off in the future. Therefore, there were several people bidding in the entire hall. However, when the price reached 5 million spirit stones, the number of people bidding suddenly decreased. After all, they weren't fools. Although they wanted to buy it, they wouldn't spend too many spirit stones. 5 million spirit stones. I wonder if any friends are willing to bid higher? Old Man Gongsun said with a smile on the crystal platform. This price had already exceeded his expectations. After all, even they didn't know the exact effects of this pill. It was already very good that it could be auctioned. Lin Xian looked at the dim pill on the crystal platform and narrowed his eyes. Although he still couldn't confirm the exact effects of the pill, based on his experience and the knowledge he learned from Lord Alcohol, Lin Xian could conclude that this pill was definitely not simple. In the eyes of ordinary people, this might be a useless pill with unknown effects, but in Lin Xian's eyes, this was definitely something good. 5 million, Lin Xian said indifferently. Originally, Old Man Gongsun had already wanted to finalize the auction, but now someone actually increased the price, which was really out of his expectations. Not only him, but all the cultivators in the hall were whispering to each other. Many people turned their heads, wanting to see just which prodigal son was spending so much money to buy a pill whose effects they didn't know. The daughter of the city, Lord of Blackwater City, Xiao Mei, turned her head and stared at Lin Xian and the rest. Her delicate and beautiful face revealed a trace of seductiveness. Her small cherry lips were slightly opened, and her small tongue quickly licked her lips. That action was extremely seductive. Seeing Lin Xian frown, Xiao Mei's smile became even wider. What a handsome face. Even when he frowned, he looked so good. She did not care about everyone's gazes, and directly flirted with Lin Xian. Humph. Beside her, Dongfang Phoenix coldly snorted. She had a fiery temper and could not stand such a shameless woman. Therefore, she also bid 5 million. Instantly, the surrounding people's expressions became rich. They had already noticed the girl in red. Whether it was her figure or her face, she was far more beautiful than Xiao Mei. At this moment, her bid attracted everyone's attention. Many people were guessing the relationship between this girl in red and Lin Xian. Even the people from the Iron Sword sect and the Huangfu clan turned around and looked at Lin Xian and the others. When they saw Dongfang Phoenix, who was wearing a fiery red light armor, they were shocked. This was because they realized that she had the powerful aura of an honorable. Not only that, but the people around the fiery red girl also had powerful auras. Every one of them was above an honorable. Where did this group of people come from? The two forces' hearts were heavy. Xiao Mei's expression also froze, and then it became very ugly. She was the daughter of the city lord, and no one in Blackwater City dared to go against her. Moreover, the other party was also a woman, and her figure and appearance were far better than hers. This caused a strong sense of jealousy to rise in her heart. 7 million. Xiao Mei's voice carried a trace of coldness. 5 million. 8 million. 5 million. Dongfang Phoenix nonchalantly said. Her eyes were full of indifference, as if this amount of money was nothing to her. Xiao Mei was so angry that her whole body trembled. She gritted her teeth and was about to raise the price again. Chapter 855. However, at this moment, the white-haired old woman behind her suddenly reached out and stopped Xiao Mei. She said in a low voice, "Miss, let's forget about it. There's no need to waste money on a useless pill. Also, those people are not simple. If we fight, I don't have the confidence to win. We have a mission this time. Miss, don't be impulsive." Hearing this, Xiao Mei snorted coldly. She was obviously unwilling, but she did not continue to raise the price. Instead, she looked at Dongfang Phoenix and the others coldly. She decided that if she had the chance, she would ruin the other party's face. Seeing that the other party did not bid, Dongfang Phoenix snorted. "What daughter of the mayor? She's just a woman. If I see her, I'll teach her a lesson." Hearing this, Lin Xian broke out in cold sweat. This girl's temper was really hot. "Do you know the specific effects of that pill?" he asked. "No." Dongfang Phoenix shook her head. "I just don't like the other party." As for that pill, I don't care about it. It's yours. F*CK. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. Women were really scary creatures. Their thoughts could not be judged by common sense. However, this was not bad. At least he did not have to spend a single cent to get the pill. If that's the case, then thank you. Lin Xian smiled at Dongfang Phoenix. All right, don't be impulsive. After all, we're here for a mission. It's better to keep a low profile. Bing Ling said. Lin Xian and the others nodded in agreement. After this, a few more pills were auctioned. However, Lin Xian and the others did not bid this time. Lin Xian looked around and frowned. He realized that the people from the Iron Sword clan and the Huangfu clan did not bid from the beginning to the end. It was as if they were waiting for something. Lin Xian was curious. He did not know what could attract so much attention from the two major forces. As time passed, the atmosphere in the hall was unusually lively. Many people obtained pills that they were satisfied with. At this time, Old Man Gong's son took out another item. It was a very simple and unadorned square box. It was bronze in color and carved with hollow patterns. However, when the ancient bronze box appeared, the people from the Iron Sword sect and the Huangfu clan became excited. Everyone's eyes sparkled as they stared ahead. Even Xiao Mei, who had always been slutty, retracted her charm and became serious. The white-haired old woman behind her suddenly opened her eyes. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked ahead, only to see the ancient bronze box slowly open. There was a completely blue pill inside. The pill was the size of a walnut. It was completely round and emitted a faint light. At this moment, the azure pill emitted a rich pill fragrance. The fragrance intertwined in the air, forming a strange pattern. It was like a blue water dragon. The blue water dragon circled around and let out a low roar that quickly spread in all directions. What followed was a terrifying pressure. This aura? What terrifying pressure! Just what kind of pill could have such power? Countless people's expressions changed. They felt as if the blood in their bodies had frozen. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. One should know that most of the people present were honorables and were very powerful. However, they could still feel the terrifying pressure. One could only imagine how terrifying the blue pill was. At this moment, countless people looked at the pill in front of them and swallowed their saliva. This pill, Dongfang Phoenix also looked over in surprise. She finally found something that shocked her. This aura is too powerful. Bing Ling looked ahead and frowned. I'm afraid it's something left behind by a king. A king. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Even Lin Xian's pupils shrank. One should know that a king was the most powerful existence in the mainland. How could something left behind by a king be ordinary? However, no one could understand why a king's item would appear here. Old Man Gong's son chuckled when he saw everyone's puzzled and passionate gazes. Everyone, this blue pill was found in the depths of the Blackwater River. According to our deduction, this pill was most likely left behind by an alchemy grandmaster who had reached the king realm. A king-level alchemy grandmaster. Could it be the Niwa of Gojoseon? Instantly, all the martial artists in the hall became excited. Countless eyes looked ahead with passion. They could not help but be excited. In the great battle of the Blackwater River 1,000 years ago, many powerhouses had fallen. It was said that a king-level alchemy grandmaster had also fallen. The Niwa of Gojoseon was extremely powerful in Bhutan. His attainments in alchemy were superb. However, after he fell, no one found his body, nor did anyone find anything related to his inheritance. Many people even thought that the fall of the Niwa of Gojoseon was just a legend. However, now, a pill that was suspected to be refined by the Niwa of Gojoseon had appeared. This was enough to drive anyone crazy. I'm sure everyone knows that strange scenes have been happening around the Blackwater River recently. Everyone here is a treasure hunter. I don't need to tell you that this is the sign of a rare treasure. Now, the water dragon pill has appeared. I'm afraid things are not that simple. According to our deduction, this rare treasure is most likely left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. Old Man Gongsun's words silenced the entire hall. However, after a while, everyone became even more excited. Even the people from the three forces were breathing heavily. Their eyes were burning. Although they did not know if Old Man Gongsun was telling the truth, they did know about the strange scenes that often appeared around the Blackwater River. Moreover, some people noticed that the scale and frequency of the strange scenes this time were far greater than before. This was enough to show that the rare treasure that appeared this time was not ordinary. Now that the water dragon pill had appeared, it meant that it was most likely left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. Thinking of this, everyone's breathing became more rapid. A rare treasure left behind by a king-level alchemy grandmaster was completely different from an ordinary treasure. If this was true, it would probably cause an uproar in the entire Blackwater River area. Not only were the three forces shocked, but Lin Xian and the others were also extremely shocked. Yang Lin's eyes widened as he scratched his head. Wasn't it said that it was a treasure left behind by an 8th level venerable? How did it become a king-level treasure? Bing Ling also frowned. It seems that there is a discrepancy in the mission information this time. If it's just a treasure left behind by an 8th level venerable, we can still complete it smoothly. However, if it really is a king-level treasure, I'm afraid this mission will become extremely difficult. At that time, all the forces in the Blackwater River area would come to snatch it. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Although they were all talented martial artists with powerful strength, there were only 5 of them. The local forces had countless martial artists. If they really fought, they might not be a match for them. Of course, if Lin Xian and the others really wanted to kill them, the other party would not have it easy. After all, they were all geniuses with heaven-defying means. Chapter 856. But that might not be the case. This information might be fabricated by the Elixir Pavilion in order to raise the price, Yi Yen said. After all, the information hasn't been confirmed yet, so we can't panic. Yes, let's wait and see. Let's not act rashly. Bing Ling's expression was also serious. Lin Xian's group of 5 were talking in low voices, while the others in the hall were in a frenzy. Countless people looked forward with fiery eyes, staring at the water dragon pill in the bronze box. Although the information hadn't been confirmed yet, if the rare treasure was really left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon, then the water dragon pill was a peerless pill, and it might be related to the rare treasure. One had to know that once one reached the king level, their methods would be unfathomable. The pills they refined would not only have the effects of ordinary pills, but they might also have other mysterious functions. Thinking of this, countless people's breathing became more rapid, and their eyes were filled with greed. If they could get the water dragon pill, their chances of getting a rare treasure would be greatly increased. Once they got a rare treasure, they would soar into the sky and rise up. A rare treasure from a rare treasure was enough to make them soar. If they were lucky, they might even become another rare treasure. Seeing the fiery emotions, Old Man Gongsun laughed and said, "The water dragon pill is definitely related to the rare treasure, but we don't know the specific relationship between them. However, if you really want to search for the rare treasure, don't miss out on this heaven-defying opportunity." That's all for the information. The auction for the water dragon pill will start now. The starting price is 30 million spiritual stones. It was just a pill, and they didn't even know what it did, but it was sold for 30 million spiritual stones, which was 10 times the price of the previous pills. It was truly shocking. However, Old Man Gong's son had absolute confidence. He knew that this pill would definitely be sold for an even higher price. After all, a pill refined by a rare treasure was definitely not an ordinary one, and it was related to a rare treasure, which was extremely important. Therefore, the price of this pill would be sky high. He was very confident about this. 35 million. As soon as Old Man Gong's son's voice fell, Xiao Mei's voice quickly sounded. As the daughter of the Black Water City Lord, she had to get this pill. 40 million. Although Xiao Mei was the daughter of the Black Water City's castellan and represented the power of Black Water City, not everyone was on the same page as Black Water City. At the very least, the other two major forces didn't buy their words. The one who bid was the old man from the Iron Sword sect. His voice was like sword chi, buzzing in the air. Damn it! How dare you compete with our Blackwater City? Xiao Mei was so angry that she stomped her feet. She glared at the other party, but was ignored. Others might be afraid of Blackwater City, but Iron Sword faction was not. They were also determined to obtain the Water Dragon pill. 45 million. Someone else made a bid. This time, it was the middle-aged man from the Huangfu family who was sitting at the front. He bid in a low voice, his voice carrying a hint of arrogance. The price suddenly increased by 15 million, causing the surrounding martial artists to suck in a breath of cold air. Disappointment appeared in their eyes. They knew that with the three major forces intervening, they had no chance of competing at all. Humph, it's only 45 million. I'll pay 5. Dongfang Fenghuang was about to bid, but Lin Xian reacted quickly and covered her cherry lips. Boo-hoo, what are you doing? Dongfang Fenghuang was furious. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared at Lin Xian fiercely. That item is very dangerous. I'm afraid it's not much less tempting than the Lone Star Sword. If we bid for it, we will definitely be targeted by countless people, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Hearing this, the crowd fell silent. Lin Xian was right. Countless people were eyeing the Water Dragon pill, especially the three major forces. They were all determined to get it. If they bid for the Water Dragon pill, they might not even be able to leave Blackwater City. Lin Xian knew this very well. When he first obtained the Lone Star Sword, he went through an extremely fierce battle. Moreover, if it wasn't for his breakthrough in the Blood Sword inheritance, he wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. This time, there were even more experts in Blackwater City. There was even a 4th-level honorable realm expert like the Blackwater City Master, who was eyeing it covetously. If they really fought, they would be at a disadvantage. Junior Brother Lin is right. We should just wait and see, Bing Ling said slowly. Woo-woo, I know. You bastard, take your hand away. Dongfang Fenghuang was so angry that she stomped her feet. If you don't bid, what should we do? She stared at Lin Xian fiercely. Lin Xian retracted his hand and said in a low voice, Now, we can only wait and see if the king's treasure really appears. If it's not, then it's fine. But if it's true, then we can only secretly look for an opportunity. Although the treasure is good, our lives are more important. Hearing this, the crowd nodded. Bing Ling also looked at Lin Xian a few more times. She could see that although Lin Xian was young and was a freshman, he was very steady in doing things. It was very rare. Yi Yan and Yang Lin were also surprised. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be so experienced in doing things in addition to his heaven-defying combat strength. Humph, you know so much. Dongfang Fenghuang snorted angrily. She kept grinding her teeth and stared at Lin Xian fiercely. Although she was angry, she had to admit that Lin Xian's analysis was very reasonable. Without the pressure of competition, Lin Xian and the other four completely relaxed. They looked forward with an expression of watching a show. Now, they just needed to be good spectators. Just as they were discussing countermeasures, the price in the hall had risen to 60 million. This price was absolutely terrifying. It could probably buy countless rare elixirs. However, this price was still not enough to buy the water dragon pill. 70 million. At this time, a cold voice sounded again. The sudden increase of 10 million caused the entire hall to cry out in surprise. The one who bid was the elder from the Iron Sword sect. His eyes were gloomy and his voice was cold. Everyone was shocked. As expected of a big force, he raised the price by 10 million. He was indeed rich and overbearing. However, Xiao Mei was very angry. The pair of jade rabbits in front of her chest kept shaking, as if they were about to jump out. She also said gloomily, "Elder Su, I really like this elixir. How about you give it to me?" Ha! The elder from the Iron Sword sect called Elder Su laughed. "Miss Xiao must be joking. What doesn't Blackwater City have? You want to fight with an old man like me for this elixir? I think Miss Xiao should give it to an old man like me." "Humph! I want this water dragon pill." Xiao Mei snorted. "I want this elixir." 80 million that you're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.